Forget what you've seen on the football pitch. This is the only sport that's coming home. To the home of British motorsport we go in the Grand Prix Virtual World Championship Superleague 2021 at Silverstone itself. I'm Jake Sanson. Beside me is Jacob Hancox, and in the broadcast direction booth is Argo. Wow, we are almost at the halfway point in the 2021 season. It has absolutely whizzed by, and we're at the ultimate challenge, Silverstone, Jacob. This is what it's all about.
Absolutely. And a fantastic opener there, by the way. That was great to work in the football there and everything. But yeah,
we aim to please. We aim to please.
But I love this circuit. I think everyone loves this circuit. I've never met someone who doesn't at least like Silverstone, both in terms of driving it in sims and also just for watching as well. We saw some fantastic action there in Super League Lights earlier in the week. And if we can replicate even half of the excitement of that finish, then we're in for a fantastic race today as well.
Yeah, it's a wonderful venue, and it's given us some amazing action, not the least of which has been happening over the last fortnight. We've obviously seen some great races from Formula Challenge, from Super League Lights, and from Super Cup as well. I mean, we've probably seen the closest finish in GPVWC history on Tuesday night. If anyone can prove that it was narrower than that on any occasion, please do give us a nudge. But we think it was the closest finish in history, and that sets us up very nicely indeed for tonight's race. 52 laps around this 5.8 kilometer circuit. That means the halfway point in the 2021 season is going to provide us with plenty of drama. The first talking point, of course, has got to be development. Now, upgrades obviously coming over the course of the season, as we know, and we are in the second window of car development upgrades for many of the teams. Let's have a look at how it has been developing since last time out, of course, and we can see that there is some really good development for Adonis and for Evolution as well. They've obviously been working hard on various components, particularly mass of the components for them, so they've been trying to make things a little bit more streamlined and a little bit more aerodynamic. Basilia, they've been working on body drag, on chassis mass, and on rear wing downforce. The only teams really, Jacob, coming into this round that haven't had the best of the upgrades is Cenobite, which have only just managed to get their first upgrades in, and on this occasion they've gone down the road of the gearbox and also of chassis mass and Burst. Now, interestingly, from Burst, we are hearing that they are actually putting their developments on hold a little while longer.
Yeah, that's the rumor, is that they're hoping to bring in a bigger raft of updates by bringing it a couple of weeks later for the next race, which is the German Grand Prix. And maybe that's going to work out for them. There's some particular things, mass, maybe a body drag as well, that'll do very, very well for you at a track like Hockenheim. So maybe Burst have got their eye on that sort of situation. I mean, component mass, body drag, that's what they've gone for so far. They could sort of not even double down, sort of triple down on those if they bring those particular updates for the next race, and then they could really be a force to be reckoned with there.
And obviously this third, fourth, fifth place battle in the teams rankings is definitely going to be particularly exciting from their point of view, because we're going to have a raft of teams. As you can see by the graphic, you've got Epic in there, you've got the Holland Racing team, you've got Red Archer, you've got Edge, you've got Basilia, you've got RSR, all very close in terms of the amount of development work they've been able to do. But it's going to be very interesting to see how those cars will actually go, and Silverstone will be an ultimate test of that. Let's look at engine development now as well, because obviously we've got to look at it not just from the cars but also from the power units and how they are going to develop over the course of the season. It's a very similar sort of story for Reventon and also for Valiant. They have gone in the same direction and just doubled the work, essentially. Reventon focusing purely on engine mass, Valiant purely on power. Quasar are actually looking at both power and boost of the engine. Minotaur keeping their focus purely on boost. Interesting how the different engine suppliers have decided to go in completely different ways in terms of strengthening their package.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's something that's really, really good here about the way engine development is going in this season, because you can see there's only 5 different directions the teams can go in. Over half of those, that's 3, they have gone in those directions, and one of those, of course, Quasar, is sort of splitting it between 2 different ones as well. So I think that makes for a lot more sort of interest and intrigue as the season develops, and as these developments, they're only going to get more significant as well, because the developments themselves will get stronger as the season goes on. So we'll sort of get a better picture as more developments come through, which teams have nailed it and which teams have maybe been barking up the wrong tree.
So it really will be fascinating to see how it's all gone. Let's look at the lay of the land of the season as it has progressed, because obviously I mentioned that we're at the halfway point in the GPVWC calendar. So let's look at how the season has played out thus far and then we can focus a little bit on where it's going and how that relates to the engine development programs and the car development programs as well. Australia, Bahrain, China gave us great races and 3 different winners in Leon de Waal, who is no longer competing, Yannick Bock and Stefan Rualt. Then Yannick Bock got a little bit of a wave on him as he won in India and in Azerbaijan. And then, of course, the last 2 races, both very fast racetracks, Red Bull Ring and the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, were winning circuits for Jurnej Simoncic. And here at Silverstone, it's another power circuit, another interesting one with fast corners and long straights with technical complex corners. So it really does meet the challenge. But as we can see from the calendar, Jacob, we have got some fast tracks coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. And in theory, looking at Austria-Canada, you think maybe Simoncic is going to like that sort of circuit as well. And maybe with the sort of momentum that Simoncic has built up, maybe we're thinking about a good result here. The only issue with that is we just saw with the car development that Burst, who Simoncic drives for, have decided not to get their upgrades coming through for this round. So I wouldn't expect to see a 3rd win in a row for Simoncic. And we'll see just how well Jurnej is going to be able to deal with not having those upgrades.
So it will be fascinating, and obviously you look at the likes of Hockenheim, Magny-Cours, Spa, Monza, Marina Bay is coming, and then we round out the season with 3 of the toughest challenges of them all. Suzuka, the Circuit of the Americas, and Sao Paulo in Brazil on the Interlagos circuit. So a lot of excitement still to come, but this is going to be the midway point in our season, the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, and we're very excited to see what direction this sends us in. So let's have a look at the latest championship standings. Obviously, the drivers have been fighting very closely indeed since the start of the year, and it's Yannick Bock that leads the way. But his lead has been cut significantly after the recent performances of Jurnej Simoncic and Stefan Rualt. So that gap is down to 24 points. And don't forget, there are 25 available for a race win. Leon Bock is there in 4th place with Fabrizio Gobbi and Colin Spork, who did a good job last time out. Adam Maguire, no longer a factor in this title fight, down in 7th place, but he won't stay there for long. Giuseppe Ragusa, David Feideck and Wright Kilk are leading the chase to close up on them. So it's going to be fascinating. But that 3-way fight at the front is very close. Evolution on 182 points in the Constructors' Championship, and you can see how close the battle is between GSR and Holland Racing. It'll be very tight between them. Edge Esports has a 4-point swing over Adonis. 8 points further back is Burst, so Simoncic is going to struggle to keep them in the top 6, with the likes of Red Archer closing in on them. And then, as you can see, all the way down to Green Stripes Racing, every team has scored points this year to varying degrees of success, so everyone's managed to get a point on the board, which is great to see at the halfway point in the season. But Evolution have the advantage. It's whether they can hang on to it. That's the key factor. So the battle is obviously going to be very close indeed here at Silverstone. You join us as we get in the swing for qualifying. If you've just joined us, your timing couldn't be better. I'm Jake Sanson, beside me Jacob Hancox, and in the broadcast direction booth, it is Argo Tida. We're going to bring you coverage of the Grand Prix Virtual World Championship Round 8 of 2021 at the home of British motor racing, Silverstone. It doesn't get much better than that.
Absolutely, it does not. And I think we might be seeing a little bit of the typical British weather by the look of things here. It's looking a little bit damp out there. The car's still on dry tyres. You can see Leon Bock was actually struggling a little bit out of left field there to keep hold of that Evolution car. So I think the rain is coming down, but it's not enough for intermediates yet.
We can see, of course, that in the GPVWC Super League Championship, the drivers are on their own, in their own stretch of racetrack compared to the other categories, Formula Challenge, Super Cup and Super League Lights, where they share the qualifying circuit with other drivers. Here in the Super League, they are given their own racetrack to play with. Basically, it's a bit like having 28 individual servers, and they can just go racing against the clock. And this is a fabulous, fabulous new idea and a new concept for the 2021 season. It means that drivers don't have to worry about getting the tow. They don't have to worry about getting held up by traffic. Leon Bock really struggling for grip as he tries desperately to hang on to the car out of the final couple of corners. He goes into club and then on the approach to Abbey as he starts the lap. But you can see just how greasy it is out there. Bock is currently the fastest, but it's not Leon, it's Yannick who's out in front.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is about 3 seconds down on the times they were setting in practice. So they're definitely struggling. You can see on board with Colin Spork how much the damp weather is really starting to affect the cars now. But Yannick Bock critically on this first attempt, and if the rain continues, that might be the only attempt that's going to matter in qualifying. If the rain continues to come down, that's going to be the fastest the track is going to be. And Yannick Bock managed to get that fastest lap time in these opening exchanges. Matthew Maliner is also right there as well. Good lap from the pole.
Yeah, this is very true. If the weather gets worse, then nobody's going to be able to improve. This could even be the pole time for Janik Bok. Matching Mlinek in second place. Look, and there you can see the spray is increasing now as we watch Giuseppe Lino coming through in 22nd place. A few drivers may well decide, if it keeps getting wetter, that they're not going to set another time. And look, you can see Janik Bok in the first sector is already slower. So this lap is absolutely critical that he's put in. Ragusa is there in third place. Williams is doing a fantastic job for Mayor Downard. He's banged in a fourth position time. Matthew Williams on home soil in front of Colin Spork and Wright Kilk. And it does look to me as though you're right, Jacob. The rain is getting heavier. Bot pits. So are we going to see any faster laps from qualifying?
Well, I certainly hope we are, because otherwise we're going to have 10 minutes of not much going on. But nevertheless, that will be a dramatic grid, to say the least, right now. Matthew Williams up there within a tenth of Yannick Boll's current provisional pole time. And that's great stuff from Williams, who's stepping in to replace Christian Pasquale today for Mayor Downard. And yeah, he came third here earlier on in the week in Super League Lights. He wasn't part of that battle across the line, but he was able to watch it a couple of seconds down the road, and he has been having a dominant season in Super League Lights as well. So I'm not surprised to see him performing well here, but performing that well, that is quite something.
Well, a good run initially from Maciej Mlinek for second position, but it doesn't look good for quali, does it? It does look as though the rain has completely dampened the spirits and ruined the chances of anybody to get a faster lap time in there. And you can see that everybody has peeled into the pits. It's a big difficulty now. I suppose we can look at the times as they are now. You can watch along at home as well on race-view.com. Janik Bok is currently fastest on a 1:30.351. And with the rain coming down, that is not going to get any better. Maciej Mlinek in second place. 0.033 behind. Giuseppe Ragusa in third position, 0.025 further back, and Matthew Williams another 0.032 further back, so less than a tenth of a second covering the top four. Colin Spork is in fifth position, a tenth down on pole. Wright Kilk in sixth position from Jerne Simicic, who's done well there and made the best of a bad job in the conditions, in seventh position. Stefan Rualt in eighth position, so the title fighters still in the top 10. Lauren Kiersmack is his ninth, and Matthias Muss is in 10th position. Leon Bok didn't get the lap he wanted from his first run. He's in 11th position. Germano Zappala is in 12th position and looking to try and go faster. Robin Panzar in 13th from Jeff Fournier, Dan Stepkowski and Tobias Olsen. I do see there are drivers now out on the circuit on intermediate tyres, and that is because essentially, look, they're not going to go faster than the lap time they've just set, Jacob, but they do need to know what the circuit is going to be like for the start of the race.
Yeah, this is basically now just a second practice session. If the race does start in these conditions, the drivers need to know where their braking points are, where the right lines are through the corners and all that sort of thing. So it makes a lot of sense to get back out there on inters and just to try and get a feel for the circuit. You can see Germano Zappala there really struggling. He still seems to be on soft tires actually out there in that Basilia car. And he is going to be a very frustrated man, because in practice, Germano Zappala was fastest by over a couple of tenths of a second to, I think it was Fabrizio Gobbi who was second, and then Leon Bok in third. So Germano Zappala in the dry conditions on a qualifying lap should have been one of the potential surprises on the grid, should have been right up there. As it is, though, down in 12th in that first attempt in the damp conditions, and you can't imagine that he's going to find any improvement on that in the remainder of the session unless the weather changes dramatically. So he is going to be very upset. And I mentioned Gobbi, who was second. He is down in 21st, sitting fifth in the championship for GSR, who are second in the constructors' standings. And yet he's all the way down in 21st. Couldn't nail that first lap, and that might really harm his weekend.
Yeah, and it could wreck his season as well. You can't afford to drop a race in this championship with so many competitive drivers in the field. We're on board with Germano Zappala once again. Watch him work the wheel here at the end of the hangar straight. Look at it. Oh, goodness me, that's so much opposite lock, and the car just wanting to wrestle itself from underneath him. But you do have to be out there learning what this car is going to do. And interestingly, Germano Zappala is the only one out there on track, other than maybe Federica Russo, Maybe other than the Green Stripes cars and Tobias, also, sorry, not Tobias Olsen, Dan Stepkovsky, the only ones out there, well now Wright Kilk has actually made the switch, they've gone on to soft tyres, and I guess that's to do with the fact that they've accepted the fact that's all they're going to get in terms of grid position. Now they're trying to learn what the circuit is doing, they're trying to understand how much grip there's going to be, not just on the intermediates, but also on the softer tyres.
And it is possible that while the rain has come down and while the rain has caused a situation where the drivers are going to struggle to improve on their lap times at the moment, it's possible that it's still not quite at the changeover point to the intermediate tyres, which is why maybe we're seeing some guys going out there and practicing on soft, other guys going out there practicing on inters. I see one guy, Michael Francesconi, he's gone on the full wet tyres, actually. Yeah. I believe he's out there at the moment, unless he's just sitting on those in the pits, but I think he's out on circuit. Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he is.
So that's, clearly no one knows what's going on right now. And when you're in your own little server, you don't get to see what other people are doing. So it's all your own decision you're making.
This is such a good point. When you'd have the other qualifying sessions going on, drivers would be able to gauge what's happening based on what the driver in front is doing. None of that in Super League. You've literally just got to go on your instincts and hope that what you're doing is actually going to be beneficial for the race itself. You're watching the pole sitter, and I can't see anybody going faster than him. Yannick Bock, the championship leader. He's thrown caution to the winds, gone out there and set the fastest lap time he can. And this is a really interesting indicator of who can turn on the dial in one lap, isn't it? Because essentially that's all they got, Jacob. They only got one flying lap, really, before the rain started to come down. So this is actually a really interesting indicator of who needs a couple of laps to get up to that speed and who could be naturally quick on the outlap.
Yeah, and not only that, also being able to deal with slightly inclement conditions. Not fully inclement, but slightly. So you have to lift off, you have to give more margin, but it requires a lot of bravery because you can still go pretty close to where you once were. They're only 3 seconds away, of course, from those practice times they were setting. But, finding where that line is and towing it perfectly is exactly what the likes of Yannick Bock and Maciej Malinek have managed to do. And what Fabrizio Gobbi hasn't managed to do, being 1.8 seconds off Yannick Bock's time down there in 21st. Sandeep Singh also at the very back of the field. He's going to be pretty disappointed with that one in 27th. I think he actually got out there later, and there's Yannick Bock really struggling through Stowe. And yeah, you can see the conditions very, very tough for slick tyres right now.
Mind you, you need to have that data, you need to acquire that knowledge because you do need to know what the tyres are going to do under those circumstances. Here's Giuseppe Ragusa, because it could be that you need to take a gamble at a certain point in the race and you need to make the change, especially if other drivers are increasing their lap times, especially if the intermediate tyres are not biting with enough water on the circuit to actually make the car grippy enough to handle. So there's all sorts of different scenarios to play out. And you've also got to learn what those curbs are going to do. Because if you are accelerating over those curbs with water on them, the wheel spin is going to be absolutely astonishing. An atrocious grip is all you'll have. So the driver's having to work incredibly hard to keep themselves in a competitive frame of mind. Now, Giuseppe Ragusa is an interesting one here. 3rd position on the grid, very quick out of the blocks. He could be a bit of a dark horse today. If he gets a handle in these slightly technical conditions, we could see Ragusa on the top step.
Potentially, yeah. Best result this season of a singular 3rd place finish. Last 3 races, 8th, 10th, 12th, has been going down by 2 positions every race. So theoretically, if he follows the pattern, it's going to be a 14th place. Absolutely, but at the moment, it doesn't really look like that here in qualifying.
Well, he's certainly got a good opportunity to get out of the blocks, and that first lap is actually going to be critical. If there's any race this season with the circumstances coming into it where we could see a first corner incident with several drivers involved, it's definitely here today as we watch Leon Bock, the younger brother of Yannick, just trying to work his way further forward. Have I said younger? I'm fairly sure he is the younger brother. I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong. certainly brothers. I didn't look at their birth certificates coming to the race event, so you'll have to excuse my lack of knowledge on that one. But I have a feeling. Maciej Malinek, 2nd position at the moment, 0.03 of a second away. It really does go to show, with 1 lap on the circuit in treacherous conditions, there is not a lot to choose between these drivers when you consider that just in 1 lap, there were 4 drivers within a 1/10 of a second. On this occasion, the whole field is not quite covered by a second. Only 13 cars were able to get within a second. What is definitely interesting, though, is that there were a handful of drivers who didn't get a fast lap in at all. And there were a couple who didn't even try to get out and decided that qualifying was basically a bind. Namely, Thomas Vach, who didn't get a decent lap in at all. Eros Mashuli, I don't think, attempted to go out until he could make the switch to intermediates. Nor did David Fidek or Adriano Opportuni. Very interesting.
Yeah, no, I think probably a mistake on those drivers' parts, really. Maybe expecting the rain to go away earlier on into the session. Not really sure what the thinking would have been for those guys. But yeah, no, that's not going to be helping them at all when it comes to their grid position. And yeah, I mean, it seems like most drivers have now decided that intermediates are the tire to be on in these conditions. The vast majority are now running those green wall tires. A few on the full wets, couple more than that on the softs, but really not very many. So it seems like if the rain continues at the rate it is, if the weather continues as it is, we will be starting the race under intermediate conditions, but that's not exactly a given.
No, indeed. Unfortunately, the grid is kind of a foregone conclusion now and has been for the last 9 3/4 minutes. Because essentially all the drivers needed was one lap, and then the weather decided, well, that's all you're getting, buckos. You're not going to get a faster lap time in than that. Wright Kilk is out there on the circuit at the moment. He's one of the many drivers that's having a look at the intermediate tyres in the hope that it should give him plenty enough grip. This is where the teams will really be working hard. You can see he's had an off there, actually. He's lost the front wing of his Red Archer, so he's obviously been pushing very hard. But I suppose it's better you do it now than on the first lap of the race, because that will ruin your chances. And you can see drivers trying to find the limit and obviously working increasingly hard in order to try and find where the bite point is. You mentioned drivers on wet tyres. There's only 3 of them out there doing it. Giuseppe Lino, Tobias Olsen, and the man in third on the grid, Giuseppe Ragusa. Everybody else is either on intermediates or softs. I do note the fact that all of the drivers that were out on softs, except for Sandeep Singh, have now peeled off into the pit lane. So the checkered flag is out. It's all academic because it's not going to change anything in terms of lap times. Nobody has set a personal best since their first lap under green flag conditions. So Yannick Bock is going to be pole position. It's the... Unfortunately, it's rather a letdown in a way, qualifying. It's a bit of an anticlimax, unfortunately, but at least we've known what the grid is going to be for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had plenty of time to digest and understand this grid order, I would say. But also, while, the rain is taking with one hand, it might give with the other in terms of the race start, because that could be thrilling. In very slippery conditions, a race start with that sort of situation is always good fun.
So here is the grid. Yannick Bock will be pole position from Maciej Mlinek, Giuseppe Ragusa and Matthew Williams. What a great qualifying performance from him in the Mayer Downard car. Colin Spork in 5th position from Wright Kilk. A good run from him. Jerne Simoncic and Stefan Rualt will be back on the 4th row of the starting grid, but still in a competitive position. Lauren Kiersmakers, Rualt's teammate, will be 9th on the grid, and the second Red Archer, Matthias Muss, will be there in 10th position. Then it will be Leon Bock in 11th in front of Germano Zappala. Robin Panzar will be in 13th place ahead of Jeff Fournier. Not a bad result for the Scuderia Basilia team. RSR's Dan Stepkowski will be 15th on the grid from Tobias Olsen in the first of the Cenobites. Federica Russo and Mirko Lucchini split by Michael Francesconi. Not a bad run from Green Stripes then in the end. And Wopke Hoekstra will be 20th on the starting grid. Big disaster for Fabrizio Gobbi though. 21st on the grid for him. A lot of work to do in very tricky circumstances. Giuseppe Lino, 22nd for Ghost Speed. Then Florian Gaia and Thomas Wack will be there together on the 12th row. Both drivers will be disappointed with that, particularly Thomas Wack. Eros Mashuli down in 25th on the grid for this one. David Fidek, 26th. And then we'll have Sandeep Singh and Adriano Opacini that will be starting down at the back end of the field. No time for the latter. So, a fascinating battle, and obviously, rain stops play is the headline from the qualifying session at Silverstone. They only got one flying lap in before the rain really started to throw up a few curveballs. What it definitely does do now, though, of course, is it sets us up with questions rather than answers, Jacob. Who is going to have the best opportunity? Your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, my guess has to be Yannick Bock right now. I mean, he's starting from the front row. He's starting from pole even. And the championship rivals of his, Simoncic and Rualt, they're the prime contenders. They're 7th and 8th right now. And Maciej Mlinek, very talented driver, currently down in 12th in the championship. You've got to imagine that Yannick Bock would rather have the likes of Mlinek alongside him on that front row than Rualt or than Simoncic or even than his brother Leon. And so I got to imagine that he's going to be feeling pretty confident in this situation.
Well, everybody has decided to go a completely different way in terms of tyre choice. It's kind of split, really, between intermediates and wets. They can, of course, decide as they go to the grid, but this warm-up session is going to be very interesting indeed as drivers try to get the tyre strategy right. And let's not forget how big a difference there is between the intermediate tyre and the wet tyre. It is absolutely astronomical, the gap between the two. Gargantuan in terms of how the drivers are going to feel comfort-wise but also in terms of knowledge-wise, because the track changes so quickly. If there is not enough water to get those wet tyres up to temperature, then they need to make the switch to intermediates pretty quickly. But a pit stop here takes a long time, so it's a difficult one. You can already have lost the race just by getting the tyre choice wrong on lap 1.
Certainly, yeah. So it's a big decision they have to make. And thankfully for them, they've had pretty much double the warm-up time, right? Because they had the entirety of qualifying barring that first lap. That was a warm-up. Now we're in the actual warm-up with 9 minutes remaining in it.
So now the big question is, as a team boss here, what do you do? Do you split the strategies between the cars? Do you give yourself the best possible chance of a decent points result? Do you put one car on intermediates and one car on wets? Or do you go with pure confidence?
It's really tough. I mean, I think that just depends on what the feedback from the drivers is and on what the drivers are thinking themselves. As you see, Ruat was just had a bit of an off there on the exit of, I think that was Cops.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, if it's a situation where the intermediates are clearly better, there's no point splitting the cars. If it's a situation where it really is right on that limit and you cannot tell, then yeah, maybe splitting the cars is the thing you want to do, particularly if you're a team, for instance, Basilia, who have their cars down in 12th and 14th. You want to take a risk with one of those and see what you can do. And at the moment, that's exactly what they've got. They've got Zapala out there on full wet and Fournier out there on inter. So they're getting data from both sets of tyres. I imagine there are plenty of teams actually down the order who will have sent one driver out on one compound and another driver out on the other.
And of course, this is going to be a much tougher session for the drivers than the qualifying was, because they were out on their own in the qualifying session. Now in the warm-up, they're actually wheel to wheel. Now this is going to give them a really interesting insight as to what is actually going to happen. But you can see on your screen that rather than getting better, it looks to me as though the rain is actually coming down hard. It's getting worse out there rather than better. That would seem to suggest a switch to wet tyres, but the drivers will know more about the feel of the car, obviously, than we can project and we can predict. I actually did some laps earlier today on R-Factor 2 in these cars at Silverstone to get a bit of a feel. I'm still not fast enough. I'm at least 30 seconds off the pace of Yannick Bog. But what I can gauge is that when it gets really wet here, you essentially have a split-second decision to make in the middle of an apex of the corner. These cars are not very forgiving when they snap away. You've got to have ridiculously lightning reflexes to get on top of this car, because the long wheelbase, when you start to lose traction and lose grip, it's so unforgiving. It can be an absolute knife edge to dance on.
Yeah, you get that pendulum effect, and the rear will just spin right round on you with that extended wheelbase, the sort of center of gravity, if you will, speaking back to front of the car. You know, that can really throw you around very, very quickly indeed. It does seem like, at the moment, people are leaning towards the full wet tyres. Colin Spork and Rait Kilk both just came back into the pits and got rid of their inters for full wet. And in general, I'd say slightly over half of the field are currently running that dark blue full wet tyre. You can see Leon Bock there on the intermediates, and he was clearly struggling.
And the thing is, you got to... Oh, that's a spin out of the final turn. You're going to see quite a bit of that over the course of the remaining 6 minutes of this warm-up session, because drivers are obviously trying to find the limit, and it's much better that they find it and exceed it in the warm-up session than they do in the race. In the warm-up, it's not going to make a massive deal in terms of their race preparation. The cars are obviously instantly repairable, ready for the race. They'll have a strategy, they'll have a setup for the car ready for the race, and the warm-up doesn't really affect that. What it does is it just gives drivers a final chance to get on top of their decision-making progress. And that is obviously going to be critical with the weather being like it is. But you can see drivers pushing over that limit. They're tripping up a little bit more. And a lot of them are not even completing lap times. They're literally just getting a feel for what the car is doing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people dove into the pits actually at the end of their sort of initial cycle lap, either to make some changes or to strap on a new set of tyres, a different set of tyres. And that's why I think we've seen only a few drivers actually completing lap times. Of those who have set the lap times there, it's difficult to give one tyre the edge over the other, because Mlinek set that lap time on full wets, whereas Leon Bock, who's currently first, set that lap time on intermediates. So basically nothing between those two right there. In general, those who managed to set a lap time on the intermediates have gone a little bit faster than those who have set lap times on the full wets, but we haven't really seen a wide enough sample of representative lap times. And as I was saying that, David Fidok's just gone to the top on full wets.
Yes, he has indeed. Yannick Bock on a 1:48.6. It's just been beaten by Kiersmakers, who is also on full wets, a 1:47.8. So we're about 17 seconds away from the pace set by Yannick Bock in the qualifying session on that one dry-ish lap. So that just shows you how wet the circuit really is. And you can see there, look, the driver's really working the car. I've been keeping an eye on Laurent Kiersmakers' onboard pictures, and he is having to wrestle with that steering wheel. So much opposite lock, and the car is so vulnerable in these slow apexes in particular, because the temptation for the driver to get on the gas, and you've got to be so gradual with your throttle input, otherwise the car is just going to snap end over end, and you don't get a massive amount of warning, and you know that you've made that critical error, you know you've made that mistake, but it takes forever for a racing driver to get on top of a car that's coming around. It feels like a country age in these conditions when the car snaps away and spins, and you instantly feel the guilt and the ignominy of making that mistake.
Someone who won't be feeling any sort of negative emotions in this moment is Colin Spork, who's actually gone right to the top by a very healthy margin. Now, of course, we don't know the fuel loads, we don't know anything about what the drivers are doing, what programs they're running here in warm-up, but I would imagine they're all on relatively heavy fuel to get an idea of what the race car will look like.
Flo, Gaia.
There goes Gaia.
Yep. It's been kind of the story of their season, isn't it, Epic Racing? They got this. This is a great opportunity for them, ultimately, in these conditions. They say rain is a real leveler, and for whatever reason, they're just not able to take advantage of those opportunities.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of been the case throughout the grid order. I was looking at the grid, and it's kind of a situation where the rich have been getting richer, with the exception of certain individuals like Gobby. But in general, the slower teams, the teams that have struggled to get points over the course of the season compared to the likes of Evolution, for instance, they were the ones populating the bottom half of the grid as if it were under dry circumstances. So that's a sort of, you know, you'd hope for it to be a leveler, but it hasn't really been the case in that one lap in qualifying. But of course, it's such a small sample size, everyone going out for just one lap in weird conditions. So we can't necessarily read too much into that. And if you want to get the reverse narrative on that, we currently have a Cenobite 2-3 here in warm.
We do indeed, actually. Yes, Hoekstra and Olsen are second and third. I suppose one of the reasons for that, that we haven't seen it to be the ultimate leveler, is that the difference, I guess, between real racing and sim racing is that with sim racing, the naturally quick drivers are likely to be naturally quick whatever the situation is. They put in so many thousands of hours on the sim to try and get faster, to get more mentally agile, and a lot of it is concentration. The drivers that will be quick in the dry will also quite regularly be quick in the wet, because it takes exactly the same type of concentration, the same type of focus, I guess the same sort of instincts as well, because when the car snaps away, it snaps away whether it's wet or dry, and the faster drivers in the dry will usually be the ones most adaptable to change. So I guess that maybe it could be an argument for why it hasn't been the leveler that the underdog fanciers might have hoped.
Yeah, indeed. And having said that as well, we do see Mlynek on the front row, which is nice. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, 12th in the standings, so it's not the huge sort of underdog story, but it's a nice sort of medium underdog story. And then Matthew Williams, of course, in the MDR car. MDR currently sitting 12th in the constructors standings out of 14. They've only managed 18 points as a team so far this season, so he has punched above the team's weight, so to speak. But having seen what Matthew Williams has been doing in Super League Lights, there's a sort of big asterisk there as well. It's his first race for the team here in the Super League, and it's kind of because of that, because of his quality as a driver that he's been showing so far in 2021, it's maybe less of an underdog story as well than it could be.
Well, I say we have one mission and one mission alone in this race, Jacob, and that is not to big up the chances of Mayor Downard at all, because you know what the commentators' jink is like. You know what the curse is like. If we say this is a great opportunity for them and they're going to absolutely lord it, what's going to happen? Turn one, boom, they're going to go around. There's no point talking about it. So we're just going to witness and see what happens. I'm not letting any commentators' curses come in today. It's not going to happen. This is the home race for me and for you, and we've got a great opportunity to see a wonderful display out on the circuit. The warm-up has come to a conclusion in about 3 seconds to 1, and that's all she wrote for the warm-up session. Colin Spork the fastest by 0.4 of a station to Hoekstra and Jeff Fournier. Fournier. Well, Jeff Fournier fans will absolutely love that. That's a good statistic as far as they're concerned. Third position at the end of this race would be a mighty result. Of course, he could have had a win earlier in the season as well, so let's not forget just what he could be capable of over the course of the day. Hello to all those of you who are watching via the YouTube stream. Keep your comments coming to us. It's going to be a fascinating race battle. Who's your prediction for the win now? I have a feeling there's going to be quite a few different left field suggestions, as well as perhaps some of the more obvious touts. Interesting to note that Yannick Bock, just 16th in that warm-up session, 2 seconds off the pace of Colin Spork, but notable that he was on the intermediate tyre rather than the wet tyre. Looking at the stats, though, you've got to think that the faster option here seems to be the wet tyre.
Yeah, I mean, I was all ready to set up this sort of easy narrative because until the very end there, the top 6 drivers were all on the intermediates, and then you had some wet tyre runners further down. And it seemed like, okay, we've reached intermediate conditions. And then, with 5 seconds left to go in the warm-up session, Leon Bock goes and sticks it over half a second faster on wet tyres. And any sort of semblance of understanding I thought I had goes out the window.
Oh, Leon. Oh, Leon. Why do you have to ruin it for us? We know what we're talking about, and then all of a sudden we don't. It's ridiculous. Anyway, the warm-up session comes to a conclusion, and we are getting ourselves ready for the start of what promises to be one of the most exciting Super League races of the season. I know we've said that several times, but throw a bit of water onto the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit and you are in for an absolute nail-biter. This is the perfect time to grab the popcorn and get a decent vantage point. There should be a lot more entertainment and drama than any 90 minutes on a football field is going to give you today. It's only bias, but it is still very true. There's nothing quite so special that is anywhere comparable to GPVWC Super League. It is the ultimate R Factor 2 championship, never mind in Grand Prix cars. There is so much tension, so much drama, and a lot of intrigue, and you're going to get plenty of it at Silverstone tonight. If you've just joined us, you joined us at a perfect moment. The Grand Prix Virtual World Championship 2021 in the Super League is about to get underway. I'm Jake Sanson. Beside me, Jacob Hancox, our broadcast director, Argo. And of course, you're watching through the course of the YouTube and the live stream on GPVWC. You can head to the website, gpvwc.com, to get involved. And of course, you can tweet and talk about us on social media using the hashtag GPVWC and the hashtag Super League. If you're watching along via YouTube, you can also give us plenty of comments and suggestions. Mayor Downard is telling us that Matthew has a 20-place penalty. So obviously that is rather disastrous for him, having to start the race from 4th position. He obviously has to carry the penalties from Christian Pascal. So he's on a last to first challenge-ish, according to the Mayor Downard Racing team. An opportunity to be 4th on the grid, well and truly disappearing. So that could be a fascinating fight back for him. But here is the rest of the grid as it plays out. Yannick Bock and Maciej Mlinek on the front row of the grid. It could be a great day for Edge Esports with Giuseppe Ragusa 3rd and Colin Spork in the 2nd, Edge in 4th position. 5th on the grid is Right Kilk alongside the championship contender Jurnej Simoncic. 2 wins out of 2 so far in the last 2 races. Stefan Rualt and Laurent Kiersmakers make it an all-Holland Racing row 4. To round out the top 10, Matthias Muss in the Red Archer, and Leon Bock is there in 10th position in the Evolution. Germano Zappala lines up 11th position, and then Robin Panzar in 12th position in the Burst. Row 7, Jeff Fournier alongside Dan Stepkowski, and then in 15th on the starting grid, Tobias Olsen in the Cenobite, and Federica Russo in the Green Stripes. On the 9th row of the starting grid together, it's Michael Francesconi alongside Mirko Lucchini. Could be a good day for the boys in green. Then in 19th place, Fabrizio Gobbi promoted. Giuseppe Lino promoted too into the top 20. 21st on the grid is Flo Gaia. Thomas Vac is up to 22nd. What can they do from row 11th on the grid? Then it is Matthew Williams down in 23rd position on the starting grid. Eros Mashuli will be there in 24th. And then on the 13th row of the grid, we have David Fidek way down in 25th. Sandeep Singh is there in 26th. And then with the grid penalty, Wopke Hoekstra is there in behind Adriano Oppacini. So with Hoekstra and Williams, the only 2 men with penalties, and there is a split tyre decision. There are a handful of drivers that have decided intermediates is the way to go, Jacob. We've got Kilk, Simoncic, Rualt and Kiersmakers. They're the big names. Then Panzar, Fournier, Gobbi trying to fight his way through the field. Gaia, Vac, Singh and Oppacini that have all gone into intermediates. Everyone else is on wets.
Yeah, and that should be fascinating then. And that's a kind of bad news for Yannick Bock, actually, because I'm sure that what Bock would like most is just to be on the same tyres as Simoncic and Rual, because that way, even if you get it wrong, so do they. So now you run the risk of maybe the wet tyres aren't the tyre to start the race on, and the Inters are the correct choice. And then Simoncic and Rual, they've stolen a march. Who's next as well? Leon Bock, he is going to be also on full wet tyres. So Evolution not splitting their strategy, both going in that direction. Holland Racing Team, both of those guys on Inters as well. We're not seeing so many of those split strategies we thought we might. However, Scuderia Basilea, who I said might do it, have done it.
This is going to be an absolutely sensational race battle. And let's not forget as well that you've got drivers on split strategies. This is going to be rush lap 1 for Hollywood fans if it goes wrong for one and right for the other. So Yannick Bock is hoping that he's got it right on wet tyres. Jone Simoncic and Stefan Rualt are hoping they've got it right on intermediates. There's a car out of position out of the final turn. That's Adriano Opportuni trying to get himself back into the starting grid position. Not seen that for a long time. So Opporuni pulls a full-on Fisichella at the back of the grid. But the drivers are now in position. Get ready! The Grand Prix Virtual World Championship Super League Round 8 2021. And it's going to be the championship leader Yannick Bock on the front row. On the outside line. On the inside, it's Maciej Mlinek. The lights are coming on when they go out. We're racing at Silverstone. Let's race in the GPVWC! It's a very tricky start, but it's a good one for Yannick Bock. Maciej Mlinek hasn't quite been able to get up alongside him. Round the outside, it's a good start from Giuseppe Ragusa. He's been able to drive round the outside and get into second position. An epic start. Mlinek in third position already with a little bit of pressure from his teammate Colin Spork. They've got to stay off each other. Good start from Right Kilk. He's up at a P5. Simoncic staying nice and steady in P6. Looks as though everything's nice and controlled. We're on board on the inset with Leon Bock. He's trying to work his way back into the top 6. He's had to be content with 7th place as they head down the Wellington straight for the first time.
Yeah, Leon Bock's actually had a really, really good start to the race. You can see Right Kilk thinking about going defensive there. That's going to be in the battle. I think that's Jone Simoncic on the outside. Kilk just shutting off that particular one. But yeah, nice moves on the opening lap for Leon Bock. Unfortunately, Maciej Mlinek not having the fairy tale start to the race. Looks like there's an incident further down. That might be Vach, maybe, who's caught up in that.
Yeah, yellow sector 2, certainly. We've got a couple of drivers that are down the order and really struggling. Thomas Vax seems to have gone backwards down the field, as has Eros Mashuli, I think. Oh, Flo Guy and Michael Francesconi seem to be dropping back a little bit as well. So I wonder if we'll get a replay, because there are certainly some drivers who are dropping down the field, but it looks to me as though we're not under yellows anymore. So maybe just a slight transgression, nothing major, as the race continues on. Bock, Ragusa, Spork, Mlinek, Kilk, Simoncic, Leon Bock, Rualt, Panzer, Kiersmakers and Zapala as they run down the straight. Zapala on the inside past Kiersmakers then. So up into 10th position goes Germano Zapala in the Basilia. And they come through to complete the lap. A very tricky race circuit now, because obviously it's very, very wet out there. And it's still not quite clear cut who's made the right choice, because the intermediates haven't dropped off like a stone, and the wets are not disappearing too far out into the distance either. So a fabulous start, and well done to all the drivers that have learned the principal rule of sim racing. You can't win on the first lap, but you can definitely lose. Yellow in sector 3 though, briefly. So they're still pushing it, trying not to lose as much time as they can. But it's out in front for Bock, Ragusa in second place, and there's Colin Spork running in third place. This is a big opportunity.
Yeah, Cenobite's season is not getting any easier right now, because Tobias Olsen has DNF'd from the race, and I think Michael Francesconi is in the pit lane for MDR. So Francesconi, who we believe was caught up in that lap 1 incident, he is into the pits. Meanwhile, here is Right Kilk once again battling with Jone Simoncic, and this time Simoncic is able to get through. So those intermediate tyres working well enough on the Slovenian's car for now.
Excellent work from Simoncic. He really needed to get out of that traffic jam, so now he's having a P5. He can start to make legs and inroads into Maciej Mlinek up in front. So it's Bock, Ragusa, Spork, Mlinek, Simoncic now P5 from Kilk, Bock and Rualt. Panzar there in P9 from Zapala, Kiersmakers, Must, Fournier, Russo and Lino in the top 15 cars, sorry. Stakowski, oh, a run wide there. So that is a big mistake from... Now, who was that? That's one. That is Right Kilk. So the red archer I couldn't see in the spray. So Right Kilk is the one that's got back. It's down into 7th place in front of Stefan Rualt. So Rualt in the second of the Holland Racing cars, the leading Holland Racing car. I do apologise. Interesting that Simoncic has made progress. Rualt has struggled to. Now he's going to get his move though on Right Kilk. And this is a foregone conclusion. Stefan Rualt on the inside. Panzar is going to lose out to Zapala, I think, further back behind. Zapala trying to commit to the inside line. And he's got Zapala. He's got Panzar. So a nice move there in the background from Zapala.
Yeah, that's Zapala on those wet tyres then. So a wet tyre runner getting past an intermediate tyre runner. And that suggests, with the progress that Leon Bock has been making as well, that for now it is still the wet conditions, the full wet conditions that we are presently in. And the spray definitely is attesting to that as well. Out at the front, by the way, big gap between Yannick Bock and then Giuseppe Ragusa. 2.3, 2.4 seconds already, and we're only on lap 3.
Yeah, this is all about confidence as far as Yannick Bock is concerned, and even if he is on the wrong tyres, his rate of progression to get away from Giuseppe Ragusa, if he has made the wrong tyre choice, he may be able to buy himself a pit stop to come in and change for the intermediates without deadening his advantage. So, out in front, Bock is stretching the gap to 2.5 seconds. Ragusa is being caught rapidly by Spork. If they get into the wars, that's going to help Bock even more. So, Colin Spork senses an opportunity here for Ragusa. Maybe Ragusa not quite as confident with these tyres as Colin Spork is. And we've got a yellow flag. I think Stokowski and Kiersmakers may have had an issue. So Kiersmakers has dropped down the order to 16th. So he's out of the points, but he's not out of the race. So he's had a little bit of a spin to get himself back going again. No major catastrophes and no major dramas, just out of the points. So he's going to have to do a little bit of homework. But the man who's going to be trying to get past him now is Fabrizio Gobbi, who's only made ground up to 2 places worth. Williams, by the way, is charging through the field as well. He's got up to 18th past Lucchini and Hoekstra.
Yeah, and that Kiersmakers, careful to note, he's on the intermediates as well. We didn't see whether it was a collision or whether he just lost it, but if he did lose it on his own, he's on those intermediate tyres, and it's always going to be trickier to keep the car on the road with intermediate tyres when you're in tricky circumstances.
So this is how Kiersmakers did it. He's just carried too much speed into the corner. That's all he did. Essentially, he's just turned in, hoping that there's going to be grip enough to bite into the road, and the car has just got away from him.
Yeah, and if you're on wet tyres, that's probably not going to happen. So yeah, the decision to go on the intermediates, biting Kiersmakers a little bit there, but it has worked out for certain other drivers. Purple sectors are now coming through for intermediate runners, but the final sector, Germano Zapala was fastest of anyone on those full wets. So still, we remain with an utterly murky picture that we've had for the last 20 minutes or so. It's been on this knife edge between the two this whole time, and I cannot for the life of me make a decision whether I think the inters or the wets are faster at any given point.
Well, Stefan Rualt seems to think he knows the answer. He's just set the fastest lap of the race, a 1:44.9 from Stefan Rualt, and that is over a second quicker than the race leader Yannick Bock is able to go. He's doing 1:46.1s at this moment in time. Even Ragusa's gone faster than that now, so this is going to be an interesting one for Yannick Bock to hold on to. With Ragusa and Spork there in second and third. But the man on the move is Stefan Rualt. He is the fastest driver on track, and he's really starting to utilize the intermediates just by being patient in the first 3 laps. Now maybe the intermediate tyres are starting to come to those runners, and with Bock with a decent lead over Ragusa and Spork, but not a massive one over Jurne Simicic, this might go the way of the intermediate runners. Here's Rualt. He's going to line up Leon Bock down the hanger straight into the right-hander. That's a perfect move from Stefan Rualt, and he's got confidence in these inters now.
Yeah, nice and easy then for Rualt. Bock didn't really feel like defending, realised it was not going to be a fair fight with the differential between their tyres. And yeah, Stefan Rualt making progress. That was the fastest lap last time around for him, of course, but he was in traffic when that happened. The second fastest car was Leon Bock. But I think Rualt's pace was definitely gated by the fact that he was bottled up behind the second of the Evolution Motorsports cars. And you can see another fastest lap coming through for Rualt.
Another replay. Let's see what's happened here. This is Matthias Muss. The back of the car just trips up onto the curb, and it sends him into a one-way spin to the barriers there on the exit of Chapel Corner. And that is terrible, terrible luck as far as he's concerned. So a very difficult moment there. Simicic and Rualt, 5th and 6th. Now this is critical for these two, because they're both on the intermediates. They're both starting to make progress. Jeff Fournier now sets the fastest lap of the race at 1:44.5. Interestingly, though, Yannick Bock has picked up the pace. He's just on a 1:45.0. That's only half a second away from the pace of Fournier. So it's still not clear-cut as to whether the inters or the wets are working best. Simicic trying to shake off Rualt whilst also trying to get aggressive on Maciej Mlinek in front. This is a really difficult situation for Simicic and Rualt to be in now, because they both want to be in front of the other. They have the same amount of points in the championship. They're both 24 points back, and it's Rualt that drifts out wide at Maggots.
You're very sensibly able to rejoin the track without losing too much time, but a mistake there following Jerne Simoncic very closely through the very fast S section. And now here is Simoncic with an opportunity on Mlinek.
This is going to need to be the last of the late breakers, which he would have probably tried in the dry. In the wet, it's almost suicidal to commit to that kind of maneuver. The comments are down. I've never known it be so quiet, as everybody is just keeping their eyes peeled to the race circuit to see what happens next. Jerne Simoncic, 5th position, tucked up behind Maciej Mlinek and trying to shake off Stefan Rualt, who has already caught back up to Simoncic. Look, he's trying to pop into the rear wing mirror of Jerne Simoncic just to start to get into his blind spot a little bit and start to whiz around like an angry wasp at a picnic. He just wants to irritate him and bug him into a mistake. Simoncic swarming around behind Maciej Mlinek as well. So Maciej Mlinek is hoping to hang on to this 4th place run. But it's Yannick Bock, Giuseppe Ragusa and Colin Spork. They've got a bit of distance, but Simoncic, if he can get this pass at the end of the Wellington Straight and into Brooklands, this is where he's got a chance to go for the podium, and he knows it. He's going to fend up the move on the inside line. Maciej Mlinek trying to go with it. They bang wheels, and Simoncic holds on to it. Excellent bit of overtaking from Simoncic, and now Rualt's going to spin, losing the car as he tries to get his own move on Maciej Mlinek. Rualt's lost it.
Both Holland cars have now spun in this race, and Rualt was trying to be opportunistic, realized there was a chance to make a free position to stick with Jerne Simoncic, and you could see that there was no way Rualt was going to back away from that move. Unfortunately for him, he definitely should have, because there was not enough grip to try and pull it around the outside of Laffield there, and losing the car on that long right-hander has seen Rualt all the way down now into 11th place.
Desperation setting in there for Stefan Rualt as he loses the back end of the car, trying to get the same move done on Maciej Mlinek that Jerne Simoncic attempted. And it's unfortunate that the panic stations hit. There's Robin Panzar, Simoncic's teammate. So Panzar is there in 9th place in front of Fournier and Rualt, but he's already started to think about Germano Zappala in front of him as they come up towards the chicane at the Vale. And then they obviously come up towards Club Corner. The final turn at Silverstone. Scene of where Damon Hill got me absolutely soaking wet many years ago when the Jordan came through that corner and hit the grass. Fortunately, he got his comeuppance 4 quarters later. He was spun off and out of the race. 1998. Fournier, now the fastest that time of the race. 1:43.89 as he comes through the field. Again, he is one of the intermediate shot runners. Looking at the lap times of the field in general, there doesn't seem to be a performance advantage in particular for the intermediates over the wets. It's just about driver's confidence. Whoever feels the best with their tyres is going to get the most out of them. And you can see Rualt now really pressuring Jeff Fournier as he makes the bid on the inside line. Rualt back up to 10th.
Yeah, and Fournier has... Oh, wow!
Rualt has done it again! He's lost it on the way out!
That wasn't even close to getting it stopped as well. Rualt well off the road there, trying to get past Jeff Fournier. And Fournier has been the fastest car for the last 3 or 4 laps out there on the circuit. Purple lap after purple lap for the Frenchman. And Rualt was clearly even faster there, but could not get any of that speed scrubbed off into the braking zone and went flying off the track in Brooklands. By the way, Wopke Hoekstra and now I think also David Feidock have pitted from wets onto intermediate tyres. They're currently running 24th and 25th, but Wopke has just set the fastest first sector of anyone so far this race.
This is what happened to Stefan Rualt. He had the lineup perfectly made on the inside, but he just carried no... he just didn't get the car slowed down at all. There was no braking, essentially, from the car. Whether he was braking or not, I'm sure he was, but the tyres just weren't biting. They weren't gripping, and they weren't slowing the car down. So, essentially, Rualt just skating to the runoff area, and that's the second big mistake now for Stefan Rualt. That drops him to 11th behind Jeff Fournier. So, Simoncic is confident with his tyres up to 4th place. Rualt going backwards. Oh, that's a big moment for Leon Bock. He just about catches it. But that was very nearly a spin-off for Leon Bock there. So you can see even the big names in this field really struggling to keep it together. First Stefan Rualt and now Leon Bock. Laurent Kiersmack has had his moment. We saw Matthias Mus spin into the barriers. He's out of the race now along with Tobias Olsen in the Cenobite. So 2 retirements all the way down to Francesconi in 26. They are still going. Francesconi half a minute back from David Feidock after his own earlier off as that Simoncic through on Spork. Yes, it is. So Simoncic lines up the move again as he did to Maciej Mlinek, and that's a lovely overtake.
Yeah, the intermediates definitely the better tyres now, as those green walled tyres are helping Jone Simoncic out no end, currently up into third, and with a second of clear air to get up to now Giuseppe Ragusa. And once he gets past Ragusa, you've got to imagine that Simoncic is going to be closing down Yannick Bock out at the front. The German has got to think about when he's going to come in for a set of intermediate tyres, because surely it has to be relatively soon right now. And the thing with Stefan Rualt as well is every time he's in clean air, he's absolutely zooming. He's the fastest guy by quite a long way, I think, in clean air in equal circumstances. But the trouble is that he keeps coming up to the back of cars and then struggling to get past them and spinning out. There's Robin Panzar and Germano Zappala battling over 8th and 9th. Panzar still stuck behind the Italian for the time being.
I don't mean to sound overtly cynical or critical of any one particular driver or team, but when Wopke Hoekstra is the fastest man on track in the Cenobite car with the fastest lap of the race, that might be an indication to Yannick Bock that it's time to think about intermediates. He's done a 1:43.6, which is almost, well, it is over a second quicker than Yannick Bock. Now Stefan Rualt responds with a 1:43.4. That's 1.3 seconds quicker than Yannick Bock has gone in the whole race. So it is definitely now starting to swing towards the intermediate tyres. And anyone who's taken offence by my comment about Wopke Hoekstra, I do apologise. It's all relative, of course. It's gauged how it's done. Simoncic has already caught Ragusa. He's going for the middle of the inside. Ragusa shutting the door. There's not a lot between them, and there's actually contact between them. Simoncic holds it round the outside, and Ragusa fights him off. Don't even think about it.
Yeah, that was fantastic driving there from Giuseppe Ragusa. Simoncic tried to shut him out a couple of times, and Ragusa was having none of it.
He's going again to the inside as they come towards Cop's corner. Simoncic tries it. He has to bail out. Amazing defense from Ragusa. Now Simoncic is going to fall into the clutches of Colin Spork.
Not in my house stuff there from Giuseppe Ragusa in that GSR car, looking to hold on to second for the time being. And every time this happens, every time Simoncic tries to get past Ragusa and Ragusa shuts the door, that's a gift to Yannick Bock out there at the front. Look, you can see how much the gap has extended. Now 5.7 seconds. Here is a slow Germano Zappala. That's Panzar getting past, as well as Stefan Rualt trying to get through us behind.
Fastest lap of the race from David Fiduk, 1:41.2 on the intermediates. There is a clear indication now the circuit is starting to come to the intermediate tyres. They're almost 11 seconds off the dry-ish pace we had from qualifying, and that's 3 seconds a lap now faster than Yannick Bock on wet tyres. No question. Intermediates is the way to go. The question is, can Yannick Bock get enough grip out of the tyres to sustain this lead? Otherwise, Simoncic and Rualt have got the tyre call right.
I mean, but for now, as long as Simoncic is behind Ragusa, as long as
he's just done him. He's completely just done him.
Well, okay, so never mind then. I was about to say, as long as he's behind Ragusa, Bock doesn't have to worry. He doesn't have to think about pitting because Simoncic was having to run to the wet tyre pace of Ragusa. That's all out the window. Now, expect to see him absolutely muller the gap between himself and Yannick Bock.
Simoncic all of a sudden now does have the chance to win 3 out of 3, and many of those who might have thought that Burst deciding not to upgrade was a mistake, well, it looks as though the Silverstone weather is going to give them the best possible chance of redemption. Let's look at it. Simoncic just swings in, out of village, no problem at all on the inside line there, and Ragusa, with wheel spin on the exit, has to let him go. Textbook manoeuvre from Jone Simoncic, and now the gap is going to absolutely plummet. They were equal in the first sector for lap time pace, but let's not forget that Simoncic was in the middle of an overtaking move as Right Kilk goes out wide, as does Robin Panzar. So they're struggling for grip themselves now, of course. Now 45.7 in the middle split for Yannick Bock. What is Jone Simoncic doing in the middle split? Well, 45.1, so it's already 0.6 of a second quicker. Yannick Bock has got to make a decision. Do you stay out or do you cut your losses and make a pit stop? Because he's dropped the gap down from 6.1 to 4.8 seconds now, Yannick Bock. Jone Simoncic on the race leader and championship leader Yannick Bock. The title fight could swing here very, very easily because Simoncic is pushing hard. Yannick Bock's got to consolidate in terms of points. Stefan Rualt is pitting, I do believe. No, sorry, Leon Bock is pitting. I do apologise. Bock is pitting. Leon Bock is the first one. He's decided to make the pit switch to intermediates then.
Yeah, he was passed on that lap by Stefan Rualt as well, I think around the outside of Stowe. I think when that happens, you decide, well, the tyres are on, probably not so great anymore. Leon Bock into the pits. He's also going to be a bit of a guinea pig here for his teammate Yannick. Trouble is, look at the gap between Simoncic and Yannick Bock. It's 2.3 seconds already. Simoncic is just going so much quicker right now. Last lap, it was 2.5 seconds faster. Yannick Bock, I think, had missed the bus here. Now here comes Stefan Rualt on Maciej Mlinek, who is still out there on the wet tyres, and it's easy for Rualt.
It's a great overtaking move. Yellow in Sector 2. That's got to be a race leader because they're in Sector 2 at the moment. I wonder if Yannick Bock's just gone wide because, well, I suppose it could have been a back marker a little way up the road potentially, but certainly Yannick Bock really struggling in the first sector. 28.2 for Simoncic, 29.6 for Yannick Bock. He's absolutely nowhere in terms of grip. He's got to pit on this lap. Simoncic isn't going to need to overtake him on the road. Yannick Bock just cannot sustain this. He can't hold on. And this is the best chance yet for Simoncic to close up and level the championship leader. It's almost certainly going to be the Evolution driver coming into the pits. There's no way he can sustain this for any length of time. He's got to consolidate his losses here. We watch Robin Panzar making his assault on Maciej Mlinek down into the straight. And up in front, that's Rualt trying to get on the inside of Colin Spork. Is Bock pitting? Surely he must be. Yannick Bock is out in the lead of the race. No, he's continued on, I do think. I think Yannick Bock's carried on.
He's stayed out there, and Simoncic, you can see the 10th coming down by the second. There's Fournier and Kilk.
Oh, Fournier going for a gap that just disappears. There was a big enough gap to get himself on the inside, but Kilk is absolutely resolute. You're not getting by. Now, Yannick Bock has lost the lead. Simoncic has got him. Simoncic has taken the lead, so Simoncic is there. What on earth were Evolution thinking, keeping Yannick Bock out? He's going to lose so much time to him over the course of this lap. The only thing I can think is that they're trying to get a decent pit stop strategy together for the second half of the race. But surely this is counterproductive for Yannick Bock and Evolution.
You gotta think so at this point, but yeah, I can only imagine that the idea is that he needs to stay out X amount more laps to make sure that he can pit X amount of times in the race. But the trouble is, with the weather so weird, as that was Colin Sport going off there, I think, and losing the position to Stefan Rualt, but with the weather so unpredictable in this race, it's going to be so hard to make any sort of strategy work and to be able to rely on any sort of strategy. So you may as well just pit and be on the right tyres at the right time.
You know what? I've had to refresh my timing screen. It looks as though... Shot on the back straight there on the run to Cops. That's Panzar and Kiersmakers. Panzar and Kiersmakers negotiating the same bit of racetrack, and they've both gone clean off it. Oh, that's game over for Kiersmakers. Kiersmakers out. So too is Francesconi in a separate incident. Panzar's tried to keep going, but Laurent Kiersmakers is out at Silverstone.
And here comes his teammate Stefan Rualt trying to make it a rather mixed bag of a lap here for the Holland Racing team. Around the outside of Stowe, he pulled it off on Leon Bock earlier, but Giuseppe Ragusa holds on. Once again, proves a tough guy to pass here at Silverstone.
Bock's pitting. So is Colin Spork. So Bock and Spork both deciding to pit in. Simoncic out in front. Yellow in Sector 2 again. Let's watch the replay of that incident between Panzar and Kiersmakers. They were going to lap Singh, I think. Oh, no, sorry. They were going around the outside of... is that Zapala that they were trying to get around? Or was that Fournier? Couldn't quite see which driver it was. But they were both trying to get around the outside of one of the Basilia cars. And you can see, look, the back end steps out for Kiersmakers. And he just slides into the side of his opponent. There was nothing that Panzar could do to get out of that. He's completely blameless. It's the mistake from Kiersmakers that pitches the car into Panzar. Panzar gets off lightly. Kiersmakers out of the race.
Yeah, and you could see that on board, but just before the contact was made, Kiersmakers had the steering wheel full lock to the left, as now Stefan Rualt is able to get past Giuseppe Ragusa. So the Dutchman finds himself up in a second. It's Simoncic from Rualt now, and we question maybe, will the tyre strategy work for them at the start? It certainly looks like it for the time being. It was Yannick Bock in first, with these guys down in 7th and 8th on the grid. Now, all of a sudden, it's the complete reversal.
Rualt completely washes out at Cop's corner, manages to catch the car, but loses grip. I think there's been a massive mistake at Scuderia Basilia. They put Germano Zappala out on soft tyres. He's out on softs, would you believe? And he's absolutely hemorrhaging lap times. He was in the points. He's now down in 18th and losing time rapidly. He's a good 4 seconds slower per sector. They've completely got that wrong for Germano Zappala. He should have been on the intermediates. It's an easy mistake to make in the pit lane when you're trying to select tyres. But he's out there on softs. Surely that is an absolute hammer blow for Brasilia.
Yeah, and at that point, you can't even just breathe it out and wait for the dry weather to come because you don't know if it's going to come. So Germano Zappala, losing this much time, has to pit next lap and go straight back in.
Oh, what about a beautiful move on the inside from Robin Panzer on the exit? He was just a little bit too hasty on acceleration, and the washout from the car. Panzer drops now to 13th place. My goodness, it's tough to know which direction to look in. We've got Ragusa, Lino and Stupkowski all in the pit lane now as well. Goodness me, a little bit of rain and Silverstone, and there is an absolute curveball thrown in. This is Gobby versus Leon Bock. Maciej Mlinek further back as out onto the circuit comes, is that Bock? No, sorry, that is Mlinek getting, that is Ragusa going through out onto the circuit, and he filters in 8th place between Bock and Mlinek. Oh, and a spin as coming out of the pit lane. Who's that on the inset? Having a big mistake coming out of the pits. I wonder if that's Eros Mashuli. Is that Mashuli? He's come off the circuit as he gets back onto the circuit again. It's Giuseppe Lino. I do apologise. So Lino has been out of the pits. He's crashed into the pit wall on the way out of the pit lane and then skated clean off. So big problems, big issues. We've now got Kirsmakers, Francesconi, Mus and Olsen out of the race. Simoncic has extended the gap to Rual to 7 seconds. Janik Bock is 21 seconds back.
Yeah, it's that's a pit stop for you right there, that gap. Yannick Bock will have better tyres for a little while now.
Mistake for Maciej Mlinek, so Colin Spork's gone through. Yellow in Sector 2, and I think that was for Maciej Mlinek.
Yeah, the two edges then swapping places in maybe a slightly unorthodox way, but now Colin Spork up ahead of Maciej Mlinek, and in general, Spork has tended to have the edge in that teammate battle over the course of the season, so maybe the team won't be too unhappy with the way that shook out. Yellows in Sector 2 briefly there as well. The gap between Murat and Simoncic is starting to come down just a little bit. Right now at 6.5, 6.4 seconds, as I think Leon Bock has just lost out there to Fabrizio Gobbi. Oh, that's Gobbi, sorry, going into the pit lane, and that's how he got past.
How about this for a battle? This is for 12th place, and this is for Federica Russo versus Matthew Williams. This is great stuff. The weather really has been a bit of a leather, as into the pits goes Russo, and Matthew Williams will now be promoted to 12th position. He really is charging his way through from the back of the field to the front, but he's looking for some good points here now, as Gobbi pits, Panzar pits, and Russo pits. And of course, Williams is on the wet tyre, so he can't sustain this for much longer himself. But amazing to see the drivers that have obviously decided to make the switch to the intermediate tyres at the right time, or at least started the race with them. You've got Simoncic, Rualt, Kilk, Fournier in the top 4, and they all started, of course, on the intermediate tyres as Wopke Hoekstra is trying to sustain his 12th position. He's not going to make it, and he spins! He's gone into the side of Robin Panzer.
Oh, and disaster strikes yet again for Cenobite Motorsports. That is not what they needed whatsoever. Wopke Hoekstra is quietly having a decent enough race to maybe score them a few more points here. They're currently sitting on only 11 for the season. They could have used a good finish from Hoekstra with their other driver already out of the race in Tobias Olsen. But yeah, that's unfortunate. Hoekstra still is up there in 15th, though, so still on track for at least 1 point. Stefan Rualt is pitting from second, so that is just going to be inters to inters, surely. Purely strategic, then, from the Dutch driver.
Yeah, I guess he's got to the end of the lifespan of those intermediate tyres. Don't forget that, obviously, before the tyres came into effect, before the intermediate tyres became the right choice, they were obviously battling... Oh, is he overshot a little bit there? Maybe just a tiniest little bit there for Rualt, but certainly there was a period of time, don't forget, when the intermediate tyres was not necessarily the best choice, and he would have been working those tyres incredibly hard to stay competitive. But they've looked at the time, they've looked at the other drivers out on the circuit, they've looked at where the box are compared to Giuseppe Ragusa, and they've clearly felt, you know what, there's a good chance here that he can get out, staying in the top 6. Just about! Oh, he's hanging on from Ragusa. Ragusa forced wide. Rualt holds the position. So he's still in the hunt for the podium for my money. Rualt's still with a great chance of getting to the top 3 in this one.
Yeah, Ragusa tended to be feeling out the tough defenses, but that was him being on the receiving end there from Stefan Ragusa. All fair, I believe, and the Dutchman holds off the Italian there, maintaining grip on 6th position. And that's important because he wants to start chasing down the 2 box, in particular, a Yannick Bock, who is now still several seconds up the road, over 10 seconds up the road from Stefan Ragusa. So even with Bock maybe having to be on the wrong set of tires for a while, he still comes out more or less ahead.
Well, interestingly, the only person that's still out on the circuit on wet tyres is actually Matthew Williams, and he's still lapping in the 144s. So that's not bad going for Matthew Williams. He seems to be the only driver who's been able to find relatively solid pace from the wet tyres. He's still doing a fair job. He's had 1 pit stop already as Matthew Williams, and they've gone back onto the wets. Everybody else seems to have gone on to intermediates. The only drivers that haven't pitted now are Simoncic, Kilk and Fournier. But now that Bock has gone onto the intermediate tyres, the advantage Simoncic originally had in catching him is going to be wiped out, because Simoncic clearly is going to need to pit relatively soon to change the inters, because they'll have been very hot and overworked. We know that because Rualt has pitted, and so has everybody else that started the race on intermediates as well, other than Simoncic, Kilk and Fournier. So it can't be too much longer before Simoncic needs to pit. So essentially they need to decide, is it worth pitting now and getting out in at worst 2nd, or do they try and stretch the stint out a little bit more and risk losing a little bit more?
Yeah, it's a big question. And I got to say, it's a real head scratcher to me that Matthew Williams pitted and went back out on a same set, or not the same set, sorry, but a similar set of full wet tyres. That is really a striking decision. It's not working out too badly, as you mentioned, for MDR. But yeah, they're going to be hoping that the rain's going to start getting a little bit heavier. It seems to have stayed pretty constant in terms of the rate of rainfall throughout this race. In general, the times are faster now than they were at the start, but fuel has been burning off, and there have been cars dissipating the rain on the track and causing a little bit of a dry line to form, but the rain has still been falling down the whole time.
Yes, it has. I'm afraid we've lost 2 more. We've lost Adriano Opportuni. He's out of the race in the Ghost Speed, as is the Adonis of Sandeep Singh. So 2 more retirements from the race then. 22 remain of the 28 that started. And here is Yannick Bock, championship leader. 4th position at the moment after his pit stop. But the 3 drivers in front of him have not pitted. So from a confidence point of view, he is leading the race. And into the pits comes Fournier. So Fournier boxes, so does Kilk. So Kilk and Fournier have both pitted. Now the roles are reversed, as Simoncic is looking for a potential pit stop soon. And Yannick Bock is trying to take time out of him, and is doing so at the rate of about a second per lap. Bock has gone through on a 143.0 compared to Simoncic on a 143.7.
So these inters are doing about 18 laps at the moment before people feel like they need to get rid of them. Jone Simoncic is the only driver to still be on the set of tyres that they started the race on. And so Jone is definitely going to be feeling the wear at this point, and we'll see how much further he can take that set of intermediate tyres before having to come into the pit lane. Of course, for him, now that he's lost track position to Yannick Bock, what he wants to do is try and maximize the eventual tyre differential between himself and Bock once he comes into the pits. Trouble is, every lap he tries to extend this stint, that will help the next stint, but it is going to lose him just pure seconds, pure time to both of the Bocks.
So Stefan Rualt in 4th position. You can just see a little bit of opposite lock needed to come in there as the car just started to skate away in left field. Through Woodcote he comes now, and onto the old pit straight as they now work their way up towards Copse Corner. And Stefan Rualt working very hard indeed here as he tries to close up on Leon Bock. Of course, that was changed from the pit straight back in 2010 to the Silverstone wing, when the FIA brought in a new motorsport rule that no Grand Prix circuit could have a curvature of the starting grid. So obviously it was that way all the way through the early part of the Silverstone running, and obviously since GPVWC has been running it under R-Factor 2 rules, it's always been in the current wing configuration position. Colin Spork and Maciej Mlinek, 6th and 7th place for the 2 Edge Esports cars. Maciej Mlinek is actually the fastest lap of the race that he has set earlier on by the look of it. No, my apologies. He's done a 143.0. The fastest lap of the race has actually been set by Leon Bock, I do believe, a 141.63. No, I tell a lie. It is David Fidek. It's still David Fidek's lap. I thought he'd have been beaten, but no. A 141.2 for David Fidek. If nothing else, that could end up being one of the fastest laps of the entire race.
Yeah, and that was a little while ago, actually. That was initially after David Feidock pitted onto this second set of intermediate tyres. So the conditions aren't improving by that much anymore, if at all. Stefan Rualt did just set a purple final sector, but that was preceded by two first and second sector that weren't even personal bests for the Dutch driver. So the track is sort of staying pretty consistent for the time being. Matthew Williams is now into the pit lane, and that is going to be a set of intermediates, so he's bit the bullet on that particular decision, and that is a shame then for the Superleague Lights Championship leader, who was looking promising, has been looking promising throughout the qualifying and the race. But yeah, that 20 players grid penalty definitely hasn't helped, nor has the decision to go onto a second set of wet tyres.
Well, to be fair to him, he is still in the points, so that's not a bad return on investment there for the team to put Matthew Williams in the car. And by staying out a little bit longer and maximising the wet tyres, he's got himself into a relatively decent track position, and he's got some pace between himself, between himself and Panzar up ahead of him and Zappala behind him. So this is now about just managing the positions. Now we've got some time to breathe and take stock. Simičić has obviously got to make a pit stop soon. Yannick Bock is in second place. Leon Bock is third. Stefan Rualt in fourth position. From Ragusa in P5. Then Colin Spork and Maciej Mlinek, Wright Kilk and Jeff Fournier. Then things get interesting from there on out. Fabrizio Gobbi in 10th position. Dan Stepkowski is in 11th place ahead of David Feidock. Then Robin Panzar, who was up towards the sharp end earlier on, is down to 13th. Matthew Williams is up to 14th. Germano Zappala down to 15th. Then Thomas Vack, Flo Geyer, and then we've got the last stragglers in the race. Erdos Mashuli, Wopke Hoekstra, Giuseppe Lino. And either we've got both Green Stripes cars in the pits, or we have got both Green Stripes cars out of the race. But Federica Russo and Mirko Lucchini appear to have made a change to the wet tyre. So yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, they've both gone on to wets by the look of it.
They've both DNF from the race now as well.
No, they've both retired. I do apologise. They have both retired from the race, so we don't know what happened to Russo and Lucchini. But sadly, the Green Stripes racing team have only scored a single point over the course of the season thus far. They're not going to get any more points on the board, and a race like this one would have been the perfect opportunity to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the sort of situation that you need to be able to capitalize on, and they haven't been able to do so. And with even Cenobite being 10 points ahead of them right now, Green Stripes have a big uphill battle to try and not finish stone dead last in the championship. Right now, as soon as about a couple laps after I said the track was sort of stabilizing in terms of performance, suddenly we're getting faster lap times. Germano Zappala has just gone fastest of all in this race so far. First driver into the 140s with a 149.99. David Feidock has set a purple first sector. Jone Simoncic has been able to set a purple final sector, even on those 20-lap-old intermediate tyres.
It's astonishing from Simoncic. He really is the master of looking after the tyres when he's got a good car underneath him. Zappala bearing down on Matthew Williams. Leon Bock now with the fastest lap of the race, a 140.941. Rualt beats it immediately with a 140.6. Goodness me, Stefan Rualt finding a lot of pace on his lap. So Stefan Rualt getting closer and closer to the mark all the time. As we watch the race leader, Jone Simoncic, the gap is only 13 seconds. If he pits now, he's actually in danger of dropping to third or fourth position behind Leon Bock and Stefan Rualt. So it does seem to wonder, have they just left this a little bit too long at Burst Esport? They were looking like the heroes 5-10 laps ago. Now they are looking like they are being backed into a corner by Evolution. No wonder Yannick Bock was able to sustain it out in front and not panic, because he knew that eventually Simoncic was going to need to make a pit stop as well.
Yeah, what this does tell us is that Simoncic is absolutely going for the third win in a row, right? Because if you play it safe and pit when Stefan Rualt did, you're guaranteeing that you're probably going to get a podium, if not a fourth place finish. That's pretty good, right? Barring any disaster, that's a very good race considering you started down in seventh on the grid, I believe. Or maybe it was sixth for Jone Simoncic. But either way, a little bit further down on the grid. But clearly, Jone Simoncic wants to win this race, rolling the dice with this decision. I like to see it. I like the bravery here. And if he goes much longer, he's not losing so much time to Yannick Bock as he once was. So if he continues out on this same set of tyres for a few more laps, it's probably going to get to the point where it's going to start to pay off, because once he does pit, his tyres are going to be in much better shape than Rualt and the two Evolution cars ahead.
Let's say, for example, that he's going to need to pit again if the intermediate tyres can only do about 22, 23 laps maximum for Simoncic. He can pit with a few laps to go and have an incredible box-fresh set of tyres and make up any gains that he would lose out on Bot. Either that, or Simoncic is trying to do the unthinkable and stretch out these tyres so that he only has to make one pit stop in the race, because the box, of course, you know, they've been out on the intermediates for a while. There's no way they can go the full distance on that current set of tyres they've got. Simoncic may well be trying to pull a fast one here and stretch it out so that he only needs to make one pit stop. He's only 4 laps away from half distance. He could make it work.
He absolutely could. I mean, it's definitely a possibility. It's going to be in the back of the mind at the very least for the Slovenian right now, maybe even right at the forefront of that particular brain. And 2.8 seconds between himself. Matthew Williams there with a cracking lap time, a 1:39.4. And that shows us as well that having much fresher intermediate tyres is still very beneficial, because he is a mile and away faster than everyone else.
He has got the confidence in his MDR today, hasn't he? Matthew Williams absolutely storming round the course. He's going over 1.5 seconds faster than the race leader per lap. That is incredible. Now here is the battle for 5th. Ragusa and Spork still with a crack at a podium, these two. You never know what's going to happen in the remaining 30 laps of this race. So Simoncic goes through into lap 23. He has done 22 laps on those tyres. He's got 30 to do. So no wonder the team are just trying to stretch out this set of intermediate tyres in the hope that he only needs to make one more pit stop, because that really would be quite the gamble, knowing how quick Yannick Bock is going. Yannick Bock is doing his thing and taking at least 6 to 7 tenths of a second out of the advantage that Simoncic has quite consistently now. But Simoncic will be able to take that advantage back again when he makes the pit stop, and then obviously on fresher tyres than Bock, so the pendulum will swing again. It's a fascinating tactical gamble. If it pays off what Simoncic is doing, it's still a race-winning strategy, because it only need to pit one more time. And as long as he's ahead of Yannick Bock when he makes his pit stop, he's got a time to basically overcut him and stay out in the lead of the race.
Yeah, and if Simoncic manages to pull this off, Stefan Rural is going to be kicking himself, because he was, well, not right up there with Simoncic. There were about 6.5 seconds between Rural when he was in second and Simoncic in first. But yeah, pitting now, especially as Stefan Rural has been bottled up behind Leon Bock for a while, not able to make an imprint there in 4th at the moment. That is clearly not been such a great decision. As long as Simoncic can take it these next few laps without any sort of serious issues, then surely he has made the right decision, and Stefan Rural has been the one who tried to play it safe and has ended up potentially making the wrong call.
And I'm afraid Wopke Hoekstra is now out of the race. The other Cenobite is now out of the race, joining Tobias Olsen on the sidelines. That's unfortunate for them, because they could have got some good points today with Wopke Hoekstra. He was looking very good in 9th position at one phase, don't forget, before he drifted into the side of Robin Panzar's car and spun away his decent run. So Wopke Hoekstra and the Cenobite team now out of the race. In fact, they are one of several teams to have lost both cars from the runnings. The Cenobite team, both cars out. The Green Stripes team, both cars out. Giuseppe Lino is a lap down, so it's very nearly both Ghost Speed cars out. It's going to be an interesting one. This is David Fidek taking on Fabrizio Gobbi, trying to make his move onto 11th position. And these are two of the top names in the championship, 11th and 12th position. This is how close it is in the Grand Prix Virtual World Championship Super League, and particularly in the wet conditions. Even the big names are struggling to work their way forward.
Yeah, I mean, they had disastrous qualifyings, both of them as well. I think Fidok started something like down in 25th and Gobbi in 19th on the grid in the end. And up to 11th and 12th, that's respectable from them. But the trouble is there is a big asterisk in the form of a lot of drivers having retired. But I will say that most of the drivers that retired were behind those two when they retired. So it's not like they've been free.
Fournier and Kilk. Kilk dives on the inside of Fournier. Excellent bit of driving there from Right Kilk. A great little tussle between these two as they duke over 8th position. Fournier is going to have another crack at him. He's got good run off Luffield. So as they go through Woodcote, he has a think about Copse Corner, but let's be fair. Once you start going side by side with a driver in the wet in Copse Corner, it is a one-way trip to the gravel on the outside. So they go through Maggots, left, right, up towards Beckett's, through the left, and then up towards Chapel, into the right-hander. And then you come back onto the hanger straight. Jene Simoncic is lapping back, Marcus. He's just got past Flo Gaia, I do believe, with Thomas Vac having made a pit stop. So Thomas Vac is in the pit lane now. to change tyres. And what he decided to do, a fresh set of inters, but he drops to the back of the field to do so. Matthew Williams is just on a 1:39.0. My goodness, he's 2 seconds a lap quicker than Simoncic.
Yeah, and 2 seconds a lap quicker than Simoncic's teammate Robin Pansar, who is the car up the road now for Matthew Williams. It's been followed up by yet another purple Sector 1 from the Englishman there in the Mayer Downer Racing Team car. A purple Sector 2, he's still going for it.
We've got a replay. I think this is Leon Bock about to lose third position. So he's at Stowe Corner, and he's gone wide, far too wide. Thank you very much. And Stefan Ruad gets through into third position. What a shame for Leon Bock. Just a big mistake, carrying far too much speed into Stowe Corner. And so Leon Bock drops out of the podium positions for the moment. David Fidek pits. So Fidek into the pits, having just set a 1:39 himself, I do believe. No, my apologies. He's done a 1:40.7, still quicker than anything Yerny Simoncic has done. He comes into the pits for a fresh set of intermediates now as well. So that's going to promote Zapala into 14th, and it should promote Erasmus Shuli into 15th position. These guys are being lapped, by the way, by Yerny Simoncic. That's how fast Simoncic has been able to go over the course of the race. 10.4 seconds is now the gap, by the way, between Simoncic and Bock. And that's when Simoncic decides to pit. So Simoncic is pitting, and he has made the lap times go to lap 26. He has literally taken it to the halfway point in the race. That is absolutely astonishing.
Yeah, the last 2 laps for Yerny Simoncic were disastrous in terms of lap time, but he was still ahead of Yannick Bock when he came into the pits. But it was only about 5 seconds, maybe even 4 seconds when he came in, because he was losing time hand over fist on that in lap.
So does that mean then that the tyres can't go the full 26 laps? Because that was 25 laps, and he was losing traction rapidly on the final 2 laps. So Simoncic just had to make the tyres. But is he going to need to make one more stop then? Is he going to need to cut his losses there, essentially, and make another stop after all? Has it backfired on him, this strategy?
Well, it's a possibility. The fuel load coming down will help Yerny Simoncic to the end of this race. The fact that these tyres haven't had a race start put through the rears will also help them a little bit as well. But at the same time, the track is drier now than it was at the start, which tends to mean that you're going to have more thermal degradation over the course of a stint. So there's a bit of a give and take in that regard as well. And to be honest, I think he's as in the dark as we are about it.
This is a nightmare scenario for Yerny Simoncic. The game plan was working, but in the last 2 laps, they just plummeted. The tyres plummeted like a stone, and he couldn't quite get to the full 26 laps without needing to make the change. So now there is going to be a massive question mark. Will he need to make a final stop with... You've got to say, it would only have to be like 10, 11 laps from the end. You couldn't risk going a couple of laps from the end of the race, because anything could happen. You could lose any form of position. He will have to back himself into a corner where essentially he's going to have to hope that he can go fair enough into the race. Charge way back. Oh, he's just managed to pick up a place on Leon Bock, who does exactly the same thing he did with Rualt, and he's coming into the pits.
He's coming in
straight in.
Coming into the pits, but it's dry. The rain has stopped. Look at it; it's so bright, and there's now on the race view. There's a sun. There's a little sun indicator telling me that rain is no longer falling in this race. Simoncic couldn't quite make it to the dry tyres. Surely Bock's not going for dries right now.
Well, we'll have to see, because if he decides that it's time to go on to the soft tyres, he could be the absolute genius of the pack. He comes into the pits. Leon Bock is changing, and he's staying on the inters by the look of it. So that makes perfect sense. But watch for somebody like Panzar, Dobby, or Williams deciding, you know what, that's sunshine. Let's go softs. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be a little while, of course. They're still going to need to clear away the standing water. But if the track dries up at any sort of normal rate, or even quicker than that, Leon Bock is going to have had to make an extra pit stop. Fabrizio Gobbi is now in the pit lane as well, so I'll keep an eye on what tyres he's going to strap on to that GSR car. He's been having a nice comeback performance so far. Yerny Simoncic is currently the fastest driver out there in Sector 1, and I'd expect to see him going faster in Sector 2 as well. Gobbi does go for it. He's now on those red-walled soft tyres.
Well, I suppose he's got very little to lose from 14th place, so he decides to make the bid for soft tyres. Now, if you're Yerny Simoncic, there is only one thing you can do right now. Push, and push like hell, because he's got 11.5 seconds to make up on Yannick Bock. If they do need to make the switch for soft tyres, if they do need to make the switch to dry tyres, then at this moment in time, Simoncic has a box-fresh set of intermediates compared to Bock on worn inters. So he's got the performance advantage. He needs to take big time out of Yannick Bock so that when they both need to make the switch for dries, Simoncic is the one with the better opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. You just got to thrash those tyres for these next 5 laps or so before
and he's
you're
doing it. 1:37.7. Look at that. That's 2 seconds quicker than Yannick Bock.
Very, very fast stuff indeed for Jone Simoncic. Now, however, it's the old enemy in the form of Stefan Rualt that's ahead of him on the road. His progress is being allayed. He needs to get past Rualt as quick as he possibly can. This could be the difference between Simoncic having a chance of winning this race and not.
If you are Stefan Rualt right now watching Jone Simoncic come up to you in your wing mirrors, how angry are you right now that you lost those 20 seconds earlier in the race? Because Stefan Rualt could easily be the race leader of the British Grand Prix here. He really could be the man out front, but he's lost so much time over the course of the race. He could technically be a good 8 to 7 seconds out in front of Yannick Bock if the way things had gone better for him earlier in the race. But now Jone Simoncic is absolutely charging on the back of Stefan Rualt. He's taken 7/10 of a second out of him on the first split, and he's still taking time out of him in the second split. No, he's just completely charging. It's like the difference between a Prototype 1 and a Prototype 2 car. He's absolutely monstering on the back straight.
Yeah, but it's all about whether he can get that track position. And I don't know that he's going to be able to here. Still stuck then behind Stefan Rualt, just into that dirty air zone. Can't get close enough. And it's going to be hurting him so much right now because he could be over 2 seconds a lap faster than Yannick Bock, the race leader, and he needs to be over 2 seconds a lap faster than Yannick Bock right now. If I'm Stefan Rualt, I'm almost thinking that I want to let Jone Simoncic through to do something to Yannick Bock up ahead, because obviously Rualt's not going to be able to get that time at the moment. It's 8.5 seconds between himself and Yannick Bock, and that is an optimistic ask to try and get that once they go onto the dry tyres later on. Giuseppe Ragusa is now into the pit lane. Let's see what the decision is going to be for the Italian.
And of course, his teammate decided to go onto the softs. What will Ragusa decide to do?
Oh, Simoncic!
Simoncic gets through on Rualt. What a mistake for Rualt. So Rualt has nothing he can do to respond for Simoncic, and that is going to make him absolutely fuming. I want to see that one again. But this is just the difference between Rualt and Simoncic. The confidence between the two drivers. It's such a massive chasm between the two. Rualt just hasn't had any confidence in his car at all, despite having the right tyre strategy in the beginning of the race and good speed underneath his right foot. But he just didn't have belief in the car in the same way that Simoncic did. Simoncic had full confidence, and that's how he's been able to maximize this strategy and work out his way. Let's have another look at it. So you can see Rualt just tripping, tippy-toeing, and Simoncic just got absolutely no hesitation, storms through. He makes full use of the exit speed, and Simoncic just charges through to second place. Rualt is almost standing still. And Ragusa has gone onto the softs as well, so both the GSRs are gambling.
They both are, and it's not really working. Well, it's a really mixed message that Fabrizio Gobbi is giving, and I think what this is that the dry tyres are almost as fast as the inters, if not faster, if you can hang on to them. But Gobbi is struggling to hang on to them. That's twice in a row. He's had one sector that's just well off the pace compared to the others. The middle sector on this occasion was about 10 seconds off the pace for Fabrizio Gobbi. So there's some mistake has been made in there. He's struggling to make those tyres work. But if he can make them work, they are fast. Absolutely.
I mean, the final sector proved that. He's just done a 28.0 and now a 26.1 in the first sector, the fastest first sector of anybody. Ragusa's just done a 41.7. So if you can keep on that railway line, if you can stay on that tightrope in the middle of the course, you are going to be fast whatever happens. As Simoncic manages to lap a back marker, yellow in sector 1. So somebody in around 5th or 6th position has had a little bit of a moment there. But it hasn't been a big incident because they've been able to get going again. But here is Giuseppe Ragusa, and this is what we're talking about. If you can run on that railway line, if you can stay on the dry line, then you're going to be absolutely rapidly quick. But if you come even an inch, even a millimetre onto the damp patch where there's still standing water, then you are going on a one-way skating mission to the barriers, and there's nothing you can do about it. So this needs precision and perfection from Ragusa and Gobbi.
Yeah, that yellow flag, by the way, that was Mathieu Mlinek, who lost a position then in that incident to Geoffrey Fournier, who is now up in a 6th. Mlinek down into 7th.
Look at that lap from Gobbi. 1:35.8 from Fabrizio Gobbi. Now we're talking.
Yeah, fantastic lap from him, and you got to feel that his teammate would be able to put in similar numbers if he wasn't bottled up right now behind Leon Bock. And Leon Bock is going to be looking at this, and his heart is going to be sinking, because about 4 laps ago, Leon Bock made the decision to go onto a second set of intermediate tyres. He should have braved it out 1 or 2 more laps and then gone on softs, and here is living, breathing proof driving past him on his right-hand side.
But Ragusa's got to go onto the wet patch to get through. Surely he's not going to be able to stop the car. He does! He does stop the car in the apex. Incredible from Ragusa, because once you get off the racing line, you're onto the wet patch and you've got so much water on the contact patch of the tyre. He somehow gets the car to stop travelling through the middle of the apex. That's one of the best overtaking moves in these situations that Ragusa could have pulled off. And look, he's just dropping Leon Bock like a stone. Now, if I'm Yannick Bock with 2.5 seconds on Simičić, I'm pitting for softs now, because the best chance is to pit for those soft tyres while he's got an advantage on Simičić, because he can see that the GSR cars, they're starting to bite. Ragusa's just done a 1:35.6, fastest lap of the race. So if I'm Yannick Bock, you've got to pit for dry tyres now. You've got to beat Simičić to the punch.
Yeah, and I don't know how much information Yannick Bock has right now, but if Yannick Bock has full information, the decision not to pit for a set of dry tyres last lap around seems inexplicable to me. Many drivers have made that decision, though, so what I think that must mean is if they can eke it out just a few more laps, then they get to a stage where they can run 1 set of tyres to the end of the race, and the guys who've just pitted onto soft, maybe they're going to have to pit 1 more time before we get to the race's end, and that might be why people are a bit recalcitrant, a bit reluctant when it comes to coming into the pits right now. But look at Yannick Bock. He's got Jurnej Simičić all over him already. It didn't take long for the Slovenian to find his way back up to the rear wing of that Evolution car.
Absolutely. 1:35.0, fastest lap of the race from Fabrizio Gobbi. Robin Pansar and Germano Zapala have pitted. They've gone onto the medium compound, so they clearly feel that dry tyres is the way to go, but they don't want to pit again. Here we go. Simičić all over the back of Yannick Bock. He's going to try to the inside. Yannick Bock shuts the door, and he's going to get wide on the exit. Simičić is going to get the same move he did before. No, he's not. Yannick Bock going to shut the door. These are the championship rivals going wheel to wheel in the apex, and they are properly pushing it now. Yannick Bock and Jurnej Simičić wheel to wheel as they charge for the position. I have never known the YouTube chat so quiet during a GPVWC race. Everybody's hands are off the keyboards. They're in the popcorn boxes.
Absolutely fantastic stuff there between Simičić and Bock, and I gotta say, hats off to Simičić for backing out of that move, because he didn't necessarily have to back out of it, but Yannick Bock cut off the nose, and Simičić didn't leave the nose in there to have any sort of collision. He backed out of it, let Yannick Bock do what he was going to do, defensively speaking, and lives to fight another day. That was good driving, very heads-up stuff then from Jurnej Simičić. By the way, Stefan Rualt pitted last time around onto a set of medium tyres.
Bock went wide at Chapel, and that's enough. Surely Simičić is going to get alongside. Bock chops across again. This has all the reminiscences of Schumacher versus Hill 1995 on the same circuit in similar conditions. This is absolutely brilliant from these two. And Bock decides to pit. I told you, he's got to be the one to pit first. He has to get the overcut on Simičić. There's no 2 ways about it.
Yeah, there's right Kilt getting past Matthew Williams. That's 8th and 9th, but Matthew Williams is still out there on inters, whereas right Kilt has pitted for softs. Rualt, by the way, has come out behind Giuseppe Ragusa, who with that undercut, going 4 seconds a lap faster than everyone else on those soft tyres for a couple of laps, has found himself out ahead.
So I think Ragusa could be on the ranch here for 3rd position. Fournier's still out there on inters, and he's a 1.5 seconds now slower than Jurnej Simičić, but still, interestingly, a 1.5 seconds quicker than Yannick Bock. Now, this is going to be an interesting one for Fournier to try and hang on from Ragusa. Ragusa's absolutely charging. Fournier's still got relative pace and relative speed on those tyres. Williams comes out. Comes into the pits, so Williams is going to make the change, I think, for dry tyres. Fournier doing everything he can to hang on in front of Ragusa. Ragusa trying to get the undercut switch move. He can't get past on Jeff Fournier. Fournier is going to try and hold it as they go down the Wellington Straight and up to the braking zone into Brooklands. Surely Ragusa is going to pop out of the rear wing and have a go on the inside, but he's going to be on the wet stuff. Can he stop the car? No, he can't. Giuseppe Ragusa overshoots, and there's so much standing water on the exit line there. He drops back, and that is a possible podium negated, because here comes Stefan Rualt, and he's on medium tyres, which he doesn't have to push as hard as Ragusa.
Yeah, so those medium tyres, surely the idea is that they will make it to the end of the race. And Yannick Bock is back out there in second, then didn't get jumped by Giuseppe Ragusa, and that is important. Germano Zappala goes fastest. And let's not forget, back all the way back in practice, if you can remember to that, Zappala was fastest in the dry conditions. It's a shame the race hasn't gone his way in the Basilia car, but maybe he can put in some fast laps towards the end here.
Oh my goodness, I'm actually shaking. This is so good to watch. Absolutely brilliant. So the battle continues. Fournier hanging on in third position in front of Ragusa. And this is a really tense battle as Simoncic now pits as well. So it's only going to be one lap distance. We need to see what Bock is doing. We need to see what Yannick Bock is doing out of the front end of the field. Is he going to jump Simoncic? Here is Yannick Bock. And Simoncic will be coming out of the pit lane. Who's going to get there first? It's Bock! Bock has done it! That was exactly the right call. He has made the correct switch. He has made it work. And he is out in front. Now, here is the interesting difference between the two cars. Have they both gone onto the same compound of tyre? Yes, they have. They've both gone onto the medium compound. So now it's just a basic straight race between the two of them.
Yeah, my read of this is that everyone who pitted onto soft tyres about sort of 5-6 laps ago has to pit again before the end of this race, whereas everyone who went onto the mediums waited as long as they possibly could on the inters so that they could get those mediums into a window where they could potentially make it to the end of the race. And Yannick Bock and Joni Simoncic should just be in that straight battle right to the end now. Probably no more pit stops for either of them, but I wouldn't bet on that. And I wouldn't bet on that especially because I think the rain might have just started up again a little bit here.
Oh, don't throw that can of worms into the mix. That really could be sensational if we get more rain out there on the course. To Colin Spork and Wright Kilk, 5th and 6th position. Very interesting battle as they continue to charge around the course. But looking at it, yeah, you're right. The weather system on my timing screen seems to be saying that there is more rain coming down. Silverstone, you are a proper troublemaker, aren't you? Germano Zappala has just done a 1:33.6, the fastest lap of the race on the medium compound. So that is a very interesting one. So the medium actually faster than the soft compound for the first time in this race. But as you say, if the rain is starting back again, it will be time to switch to intermediates before anybody can blink. Thomas Bach is the fastest man. Do you know, I don't think we've seen a GPVWC Super League race this year with so many different drivers snatching the fastest lap of the race. I think you usually get about 6 or 7 drivers maximum. I'm sure we've had at least 13 or 14 different drivers being the fastest driver of the race at some point in the race. Yellow in Sector 1.
Lino.
The sector we're in. It was Giuseppe Lino, who was already down in 18th place and really struggling to get it home. But in a race like this, if you get it home, you'll probably get a point. So it's critical for Giuseppe Lino. Yannick Bock going a little bit deep into the field, but he's there in front of Simoncic. This is a grudge match between the two of them now. They've already had a little bit of a battle on circuit. And they are desperately trying to fight for the victory with the possibility that rain is coming down onto the circuit again and they're on the wrong tyres if that's the case. Simoncic has got back up to Yannick Bock and now they can battle again down the hangar straight. And let's not forget that there's not going to be any DRS available open to them. They won't have DRS because of the wet conditions. So it's just going to be pure nerves of steel between Yannick Bock and Jene Simoncic. Simoncic not close enough on this lap, but on the next lap he might be.
Let's not forget as well that Leon Bock, I believe, is still out there on intermediate tyres. Everyone else on dry tyres. Leon Bock might be the odd one out here, I believe, unless he's come in again to change that for dries, and I don't think that's the case. Here are Stepkowski and Gobby. That's Gobby taking a look there at Stepkowski.
I wonder. Oh, a big off there. That was that a back marker going off, or was that Leon Bock? No, it was Stepkowski, so down to 12th position. I wonder, is Evolution basically treating Leon Bock like the guinea pig today? They know that Yannick can win the championship. Are they basically trying every trick they can with Leon so that Yannick doesn't have to suffer the pain?
I mean, it's a possibility. We did see Leon Bock struggling quite a lot, particularly through Stowe, just before coming into the pits to get on a second set of intermediate tyres. So it wouldn't surprise me if that first set was just completely overheated and basically unusable. And that's why Leon Bock pitted when he did. And at that point, the rain was still just about coming down. So going on to another set of intermediates was more or less the right call. But then, as soon as Leon Bock entered the pit lane, that's when the rain stopped and it suddenly became the wrong call entirely. And now it might become the right call again before this race is out.
It's absolutely fantastic stuff. Really exciting stuff. GameX98 on the YouTube says, I'd take some popcorn if you offered it to me. Yon is going absolutely bonkers on the Twitter. He's never had to type so fast in all his life. It's absolutely brilliant stuff in GPVWC Super League at the moment. Bok and Simoncic still dueling for the victory. They are trading sector times at the moment. Their lap times are so close. 134.4 for Yannick Bok, 134.3 for Yannick Simoncic. This is a replay of Colin Spork into Village. Whoa! That's an amazing save. That's an absolutely amazing save. He's lost the position, but he has saved his race. That could have gone so badly wrong for Colin Spork. He loses out to Maciej Mlinek, but that could have been so much worse. I think he's actually just lost the place to Mlinek, so he might have lost out to Right Kilk initially. So Colin Spork has lost another place now to Maciej Mlinek. So Colin Spork struggling at the moment on those tyres. The lap times have dropped again. Look, they're down to 135s and 136s. Quite a few of them on 137s. Here's Gobby on Leon Bok. That'll do nicely. Excellent one. Excellent work there from Fabrizio Gobby. Just getting the last of the life he can out of those soft compound tyres. And here's Matthew Williams having a look at Leon Bok. Those who champion in the underdog will be absolutely jumping up and down for Matthew Williams to get the move on Leon Bok. That would be a massive loss of face for Leon Bok.
Yeah, Leon Bok, of course, still out there on intermediates, though, and at this point, it's not really a fair fight between the intermediates and the dries. The dries are still just faster, but we saw Colin Spork, he actually made another mistake. That's what lost him the position to Mlinek. So he lost a position to Kilk in the first sector with a mistake, and then in the second sector made another mistake to lose the position to Mlinek. So that shows you that while the dry tyres are faster, they're still harder to drive on. They're harder to keep the car on the road. They are still on a knife edge. You can still see spray coming up from the cars. They're not fully suitable tyres for the conditions.
No, indeed. It's all instinct now, and there's just 0.3 of a second between Yannick Bok and Yannick Simoncic at the front end of the field. There's nothing to choose between them. Here they come into the Vale. Left, right, ride the curbs. We've got yellows in Sector 1. Don't think that's going to be a permanent one, though. But it's indeed, it's gone away very quickly. Now, let's ride on board with Yannick Simoncic. Let's listen in. First corner. Full commitment through turn 1 as he follows Yannick Bok. We listen again on the down change. Still a tiny bit of wheel spin. Fascinating stuff as Simoncic gets right in close to Yannick Bok, but on acceleration, Bok's got the run. Now let's listen in down the Wellington Straight. Let's see when he mixes braking point. This is where he could be gaining quite a bit of his time. Full send into the braking zone for Brooklands. Really interesting to watch Simoncic hunting down Yannick Bok. He's obviously having to deal with dirty air at the same time as all of this, but he's so focused. He's not focusing on Yannick Bok's car at all. He's focusing on the placement and where the car is going in the braking zone. He won't make the overtake into Copse. He'll just back off a little bit. He just drops back a car length and a half, maybe more than he needs to, because he can set him up for Maggots and Beckett's if he runs the ragged edge. Let's listen. So committed, Jacob. This is an absolute master at his craft.
Yeah, absolutely. And now with a decent run, not good enough, I don't think, to send a move into Stowe on Yannick Bok. Get closer to that brake light there. Well, not the brake light, the rain light, I should say, but not close enough. Further down, Leon Bok has now been passed by Matthew Williams in that battle we saw a little bit of earlier on. So Williams now up into P10 on what has been a very impressive recovery drive for the MDR stand-in driver. And a couple of drivers, actually, I want to say, who have had impressive performances. I was about to say Right Kilk has had a great race, but he made a mistake on that last lap and has lost out to Maciej Mlinek.
Well, these two are in a Mexican standoff here, aren't they? Yannick Bok and Yannick Simoncic. They're both daring the other to make a pit stop for intermediate. Oh, great supper for Yannick Bok, and that's enough. Yannick Simoncic is through. Simoncic has got him. Big mistake for Yannick Bok. Huge.
Yeah, and that's the part of the track that Simoncic has been super good at all race long. And maybe Yannick Bok was feeling the pressure, knowing that Simoncic was right on his case, knowing that that was Simoncic's favorite part of the racetrack, felt the need to try and get on the throttle just a little bit too early. And then that was what caused the little moment of uncertainty with the car fishtailing around. He held on to it, but lost the position. Yannick Simoncic takes the lead once again.
I'll tell you what, Hollywood movie buffs will have seen that as the Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman moment. Big mistake. Big, huge. absolutely massive moment as Simoncic gets the run on Yannick Bock. A big mistake from the championship leader, and that's a big one in terms of the psychological gameplay between the two drivers. I would love to see that again, because that could have been the moment that changes the perception of who's the strongest driver fighting for the title in this championship fight. When the chips are down, when the raw nerves of steel are tested and pushed out to the challenge, it's Bock that made the mistake, not Simoncic. And I think a lot of people would have thought it would be the other way round.
Yeah, it's certainly the case. I mean, Bock has been very, very impressive throughout this season so far. Of course, you have to be if you're going to be leading the championship, and leading it still by a fair margin. But maybe, just maybe, that margin is going to come down even further. Simoncic staring down the barrel of a third win in a row with an unupgraded car, let's not forget.
That's a very good point indeed. Let's watch it. So this is the moment where Yannick Bock could potentially have lost the British Grand Prix. Into farm. He's just got too early on acceleration and the car just slaps away from him. It's the slightest mistake, the tiniest little error. And then he's hit the panic button. He's tried to get the car pointed in the right direction and slowed down. Oh, that's Gobby. That's Gobby going off. Gobby has lost a massive amount of places. He's down to 11th. What happened there?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what the issue was there, right?
Kilk is pitting. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Sorry, Jacob. I spotted it at the same time you did. But yeah, big mistake for Gobby. We'll have to pick that one up.
Yeah, right, Kilk. Surely this is going to be intermediate tyres then, because he went on to softs. One of the first drivers to go on to softs when it contained dry conditions. It's back on the inters now. Right, Kilk is the first one to pull this particular trigger. Leon Bock is still out there on the old intermediates. Flo Geyer and Daniel Stepkowski have also gone on to intermediate tyres. And I think we're just about reaching the crossover point. 138, that sounds about right.
Now, again, Yannick Bock needs to be the first one to pit if he's going to get whatever on Simoncic. Oh, Gobby just got the inside line. He got greedy. He got greedy on the inside of Colin Sport. He dived for the inside. He thought, you know what, I can have him there. And he just drifted onto the wet patch. And that was enough for him to lose the car altogether. Now, again, if I'm Yannick Bock, I'm going to be the one who blinks first. I'm going to be the one who pits before Jene Simoncic, as out of the way gets Roman Panzar, so Panzar lets his teammate go. If I'm Yannick Bock, look, I'm losing 3.8 seconds in gap. He has just plummeted, hasn't he? 3.8 seconds is now the gap. He's had a terrible lap as Yannick Bock. Well, I think he had a big problem in the middle sector. He lost a second in the second sector.
Yeah, he's made some kind of mistake in the second sector, but Jene Simoncic has had a really fast lap as well. That is very impressive indeed from Jene.
Even if he made the pit stop then for intermediates, would Yannick Bock gain that much of an advantage?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a huge advantage right now, especially if Simoncic is still just about keeping those tyres in a decent window. It was a 137.9 last time out. Everyone else is in the 38s or the 39s or the 40s right now. So Jene Simoncic is still just much faster than the rest of the field at this point.
Williams pits, so does Thomas Vack, and Dead Juice on YouTube says what we're all thinking. What a race! It just keeps getting better all the time. And now that we've got the rain back, it's essentially backing drivers into a corner as to when they make the switch to inters. Leon Bock is always, seems to always forever has been on the intermediates. He's basically just stayed out with them all race long. Right, Kilk, Matthew Williams, they're both on inters. So are Stepkowski, Vack, and Geyer. They've got nothing more to lose, essentially, from their point of view. Everyone else is still on a dry compound, either soft or medium. Ragusa is currently on the soft tyre. He's the highest runner of the softs, and there are only 3 drivers on soft tyres in this race. You've got the 2 GSRs of Ragusa and Gobby, and Fidek, who is in 13th place. Everybody else is on the medium compound of the dry runners. And Leon Bock, look, the car's just got no front-end grip. He's got absolutely nothing to fight back with, and Fabrizio Gobby's going to make mincemeat of him through Maggots and Beckett's.
And this is the thing as well about Leon Bock's intermediate tyres, is while they technically are intermediate tyres, they have the green ring to prove it. They're hardly really intermediate tyres anymore, because he had to drive around on a drying track on those inters, getting them completely worn out, completely out of their temperature working range. And so even though there should potentially be a slight advantage starting to form here for Leon Bock with that set of tyres, I think they basically aren't really worth the name of intermediate tyres anymore.
I think it's fair to say that Jene Simoncic has psychologically won this Grand Prix, if anything other than 10 laps remaining, because the gap is up to 6 seconds. That is astronomical pace from Yerny Simičić. I think Yannick Bock has completely lost faith in his ability there after that mistake. It's a big psychological hammer blow, and I don't think any of us expected Yannick Bock to be the one to get it wrong. But that has really hampered his confidence out in front. Simičić is just ploughing on, and the gap is up to 6 seconds in various parts of the course. So Simičić absolutely getting this right at the back. Oh, a big off. What on earth happened there to Fabrizio Gobbi?
Oh,
he's in a straight race with no grip at all, and Gobbi's into the wall. He's out. There's no way that car's going to be drivable.
That is soft tyres that Gobbi is on. I don't know if that's just the tyres. It looks so weird that I wonder if there was a mechanical issue there for the GSR car that Fabrizio Gobbi is piloting, because that was really, really astonishing. There's someone off just ahead. I think that was one of the Red Archers.
Yeah, that could be right Kilk as well. So Kilk, I think, has had an off as well. So we're going to have to pick up 2 incidents separately there. Sorry, Argo. You're definitely going to be earning your sweat tonight. All sorts of battles to pick up as Leon Bock, again, look, he just washes out from Colin Spork. He's just got absolutely no faith in what the car is doing. He's got to try and pick it up again, but he's also got to think about a new set of compounds because he's got lap 43, 10 laps to go. He needs to put a fresh set of tyres on, but what compound do you go for? Here's Gobbi. Look, he's just drifted onto the white part of the circuit, tries to get it back again, gets back on the throttle, and the car just swaps ends again.
Yeah, grass on the tyres, perhaps, maybe. It's trying. Those rears really did not want to go with him on that call to plant the throttle once again there on the Wellington Straight. So yeah, unlucky, unfortunate moment for Fabrizio Gobbi, who's had a nice recovery drive until that point in the race. There's been a couple of other incidents as well for Gobbi, but in general, the race has been solid. I think what is happening, by the way, right now, as we speak, the crossover is happening.
Yeah.
But I think we saw Right Kilk making a mistake on that last lap. He was the one, he's the flagship guy for the intermediates right now, so that muddies the picture further. That it's still worth being out on these medium tires right now if you can make it to the end of the race. The trouble is, if in the next 2 or 3 laps you get that crossover.
Leon Bock's going for it on the inside of Colin Spork. Sorry, he's back. Colin Spork has grip, and he's been able to make that move. Colin Spork washes out, and Leon Bock gets the place.
So now those inters are inters once again, it would seem then, for Leon Bock. Mleinek up ahead is also on intermediate tyres, having just pitted. And then you've got Kilk, Williams, Fidot, Gobbi, Stepkowski, Pansar, Vach, and Gaia all on intermediates as well, but they're much further down the order. And I mean, Yerny Simičić is now down into the 140s. Surely he would be going faster if he were on intermediate tyres right now. But with only so many laps, only 8 laps left in this race, is that enough time to justify making that pit stop?
Well, as Dead Juice points out, if Matt Williams didn't have a silly strategy, he might be in the top 5 easily here. He's in 10th position. Good point from Jake Dennehan. The rain is picking up, so it's going to force the issue for drivers to make pit stops. Ragusa is in. Ragusa is in, so that's an important one, because he was obviously on softs. He must be thinking about intermediates to complete the race distance. We're just having a look to see what Ragusa is going to do. Yes, he's gone intermediates to finish off the race, so that is very telling. Colin Spork has got right onto the racetrack again, and he's desperately trying to stay in front of Right Kilk. No, sorry, that is Colin Spork. I think he's got a back marker in behind him. I do apologise. So Kilk is still there out on the circuit in 9th position. But very interesting. So Kilk has made a mistake, we've been told. So I do apologise. So Gaia has made a mistake and had an incident and gone off the road. So let's have a look at the replay. I think this could be the Gaia incident. Yes, it is. So this is Flo Gaia just after Gobbi went off. Whoops. That was pretty academic, really, wasn't it, for Flo Gaia?
Yeah,
very easy kind of spin, that one, unfortunately.
Yeah, pretty emphatic stuff, though, actually. Points for style there for Flo Gaia. That was what I accused of being in a red Archer earlier on. I saw a flash of red. Sorry about that. That was my mistake. That was the Epic Racing Team car, of course, of Flo Gaia, who's down there in 17th and last of the runners at the moment in this race. Last time around, Yannick Bock was on a 143. Most of the intermediate runners are just about in the 141s, but so is Yerny Simičić. He keeps just defying what ought to be the received wisdom here, that the intermediate should be the only tyres in the 41s at this point, but Simičić is doing it on those mediums. Rualt is in the pit. Surely that's for inters, and I guess he doesn't have anything to lose here because he's in a battle with Ragusa rather than Bock and Simičić.
This is Flo Gaia having another trip, is it? Oh, Flo. This is not a good season for the Epic Racing Team, is it? You got to feel sorry for them. He's doing everything he can to get that car competitive. and he's almost having a Felipe Massa day at the office. That's an unfortunate comparison. Simoncic is now clearing out to 11.4 seconds clear of Bok in these difficult conditions. This is an astonishing bit of discipline from Simoncic to just continue to stretch out that gap. He can finish the race on these tyres while everybody else is going for intermediates. And if Rualt keeps pushing on the inters, he could catch and pass Yannick Bok quite easily for second. He could do it.
Yeah, and everything else we've seen from this race, we've seen various drivers doing impressive things throughout this race. And talent has been very much on display. But what Jurnej Simoncic is doing right now, for me, trumps everything else. The lap times he is setting on those mediums compared to the medium tyres that everyone else is on. Most of the other guys still on mediums. Fournier, Spork, Zapala, they're in 46s, 47s. Jurnej Simoncic still 41s.
Simoncic pits. Simoncic does pit for the intermediates, and so does Bok. So Simoncic and Bok both decide to pit. They both decide enough is enough. We've flirted with danger far enough. I mean, they are 12 seconds off their own pace. So Simoncic, and how about that for Yannick Bok? He has to watch as Simoncic goes out of the pit lane. I think he had, was that Zapala coming in as well? So there was almost...
I think Bok's just crashed in the pit lane.
Has Yannick Bok crashed in the pits? My goodness. Yes, I think he has. So he's lost second place, almost certainly. We're going to need to watch this one again. But Yannick Bok, I think you're absolutely right. Yes, he has.
Look at it.
He's had an off in the pit lane. And he has actually crashed into the pits. What a disaster for Yannick Bok, because now obviously he's going to need to stop, repair the car, and he will lose the podium, almost certainly here.
Yeah, and think back to qualifying when we said it was a fantastic result for Yannick Bok, and Simoncic and Rualt were further away. He had a nice buffer, several cars between himself and those two drivers. Well, that has evaporated as the rain has not. Simoncic leads, Rualt second, then it's Yannick Bok in third. Giuseppe Ragusa very close behind him as well, and Maciej Mlinek, who's still there or thereabouts, in fifth.
We need to watch that replay again for Yannick Bok, because that has cost him second place, and with it, his lead in the championship fight will drop from 24 points to 14 points. His lead has been almost sliced in half as Williams has a look at Colin Spork, thinks better of it, and decides to hang on to his 9th position for the time being. But Yannick Bok has been completely and totally, psychologically and sportingly been trounced here by Simoncic, and he can't handle it by the look of it. He's really struggling as Williams dives in on Colin Spork and gets the move. What could have been for Matthew Williams today if they had got the strategy right?
Yeah, unfortunately for Williams, that's about it, because next up the road is Jeff Fournier, and that's a long way.
Oh, Spork has got no traction, and Wright Kilk has just dived in on the inside of him, so Wright Kilk has taken the place away. So Fournier is down to 7th, Spork is down to 10th, and you can see there that the rain is now really starting to come down. Spork has got absolutely nothing. Let's have a look again. This is Yannick Bok coming into the pits, and he loses it. Look at that. He's just put his foot on the throttle and bang, he's crashed into the pit garages.
Yeah, I wonder if he's actually picked up damage as well from it. He doesn't seem to be losing too much time out there on track compared to everyone else. But of course, the amount of time lost in the pits is definitely going to make a big difference. He has lost track position to Stefan Rualt, and that's most important right now for him.
Yeah, because Rualt is going to gain 3 points on him. That's going to drop his deficit from 24 to 21 points. And Ragusa now senses that Yannick Bok is vulnerable. The team will have told him, that's the championship leader in front of you. Go, go, go get him. You've got 3rd position riding on it. And there's 6 laps to go. Ragusa has shown good confidence in the car, but Yannick Bok is now on the same tyres as Ragusa, so the tyre advantage that the Italian had earlier on is now negated as Fournier finally surrenders and comes into the pits to change to intermediates. But unfortunately for Jeff Fournier and the Brasilia team, it's too little, too late.
Yeah, and the thing is, for Fournier, in terms of pace, it would have been better to stay out there on the mediums, but the decision must have been, I'm going to crash. If I try and drive these last 6 laps of the race on these tyres, I am going to end up in a wall, so I have to go onto a set of inters.
Yeah, I mean, if you think that Williams has made 4 pit stops and he's still charging his way through the field up into 7th position, if Williams hadn't have made that additional pit stop, he'd be on the podium about now.
Yeah, it's been a really, really fantastic drive from Matthew Williams. The decision-making, not necessarily amazing. Whether it was his fault or not, hard to say. But the driving has been really on point. As right now we see Geoffrey Fournier, who has just pitted off of medium tyres in a betrayal of those who are trying to run those, and that is himself and Colin Spork, who is the last driver out on those medium tyres. And now there's the knife in the back as Geoffrey Fournier drives on past.
Oh, Dead Juice comments on YouTube. It was a mum's spaghetti moment for Bok, which is basically code for he was nervous and he made the mistake. Yellow in Sector 2 then, as another driver drops it. But it's Jeff Fournier now trying to stretch away from Colin Spork, and he's going to have a good chance to do that because now he's on the intermediate tyres, which are the right tyres for the conditions. Spork is desperately trying to keep himself in the points. At one stage in this race, he was looking at a podium finish, Colin Spork. It's all fallen to pieces around him, and now he's barely getting any traction to stay in front of David Fidek. Here is a replay. This is Flo Gaia, and he's going to do the Felipe Massa move, isn't he? Oh, Florian. Into the barriers, and there goes the rear wing. And surely that is game over for Flo Gaia, unless he's just going to try and keep it going at the back of the field in the hope that two cars in front of him go off and he can get a point for 15th place. What a disaster.
Yeah, there's the picture of Flo Gaia desperately trying to get back into the pits. I think at this point, we could probably leave poor Flo alone. I think we understand what's going on for Gaia.
Bless him. Flo Gaia is in a Formula Ford race at the moment because he's got no wings at all. There is Fournier still drifting away. Look at the way he's got the gap up to Colin Spork. Spork is doing a brilliant job here to hang on to a race that is absolutely evaporating on him. He is in no man's land here, and he is in crisis mode. He's in 10th position on the wrong tyres. He's on mediums when everyone else is on inters with the rain coming down. And on lap 49, he is hanging it out there, desperately trying to stay in front of David Fidek, who is, of course, a former champion in Super League. He has been there and done it all. So he is not going to be impatient when it comes to Colin Spork. He's going to bide his time. Now, here's Ragusa. And he's still hustling Yannick Bok. Bok has got to regroup here. He has done a fair job since that moment in the pits. He's had to completely reset himself. He'll be angry with himself. He'll be talking himself down. He'll be there. Come on, you had a chance to win this race and you've thrown it. Oh, Ragusa's thrown it! And he's done it right in front! Oh, now, who was that behind him? Was that Mlinek? No, it's not. It's one of the slower cars. That was...
It might have been Panzer?
Yeah, it was Panzer. So Panzer, who is in the final points position. Now Ragusa can get back on. Is he going to be able to survive in 4th position? Will he lose positions here? No, he won't. He's going to hang on in front of Maciej Mlinek. So he was lucky there not to lose position. But what he has done is thrown away the podium.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, he had an opportunity, a real opportunity for that podium. Yannick Bok is wounded out there, I'm pretty sure. I think there must be a little bit of extra damage to that car from that pit lane incident because the pace that Yannick Bok is displaying right now is about 1.2 seconds a lap slower than Stefan Rualt and about 1 second a lap slower than Jerne Simoncic. So he should not be that far off their pace.
Guess what? We might get a top 6 finish from Williams after all. He is catching Leon Bok at the rate of 3 seconds a lap as we watch Ragusa getting basically T-boned there by Robin Panzer. That doesn't happen very often in GPVWC Super League. Special circumstances. Ragusa able to get away with that one. Simoncic and Rualt. How are they feeling right now? This is an absolute heaven-sent race for them. They've been able to come away from the 4th row of the starting grid in 1st and 2nd. And it's Yannick Bok, the pole sitter, that's got it wrong.
Yeah, it's just a miracle for them. They can be delighted with the way the race has gone, with the rain coming down at the right time, but they made the right decisions as well. Simoncic was very, very brave, in particular with his decision-making, and the rewards are evident in his 21, or rather 20 and a half second lead right now to Stefan Ruat in second. That is showing you, just emphasizing how well Simoncic has done once again.
Mr. Coffolino comments on YouTube. Nobody hit that wall on the exit of Woodcote ever until today when 2 cars ended their race there. It's a very good point. I don't think anybody's ever been off there in GPVWC Super League before. So that just shows you how treacherous it is on Woodcote. If you get that wrong, you are absolutely in the wall. As we watch Yannick Bok on his own in 3rd position. He will still lead the championship. He will still score good points. But there is no getting around the fact that his lead over Rualt will drop from 24 points to 21. And in the shape of... it'll drop even more than that, won't it? It'll drop to 20 points because Yannick Bok will score 16 compared to Stefan Rualt, who will score 20. And he will lose 9 points to Simoncic. So the lead will drop from 24 points to 15 points. As this is Spork versus Gobby and Colin Spork. Oh dear, oh dear.
You got to say, though, you got to respect that Colin Spork is willing to battle at this point on those medium tyres. He's willing to try and hold other cars behind.
Yeah,
Try
absolutely.
and make them work.
It's incredibly admirable, and it shows great skill and very incredible talent to be able to have held on as long as he has. But now he is going straight off at Luffield. And, well, I'm afraid Colin Spork is throwing the proverbial white flag on the situation as he desperately tries to get that car to the finish. Never mind in the points now. He is in 11th place technically, but Fabrizio Gobbi is going to be very close in behind. In fact, that's Jene Simoncic behind him on the penultimate lap. Colin's got to be careful. He doesn't take out the race leader here.
He's going to be very, very careful indeed by the look of things, letting the race leader through. And that means for Colin that he has one fewer lap to do in this race as well.
That's a very good point, actually.
For him.
It's a very good point. You know what? He says, you know what? I don't care. Just take the lap. I'm all right to be lapped today. That's fine. It means I don't have to do as many laps as I would have done. Now, this is Matthew Williams on Leon Bock. He's been catching him at the rate of 3 seconds per lap. And now Williams has got a great chance here to get the evolution. This could be one of the overtaking moves of the season. Matthew Williams on the inside of Leon Bock. Bock drifts out. Williams has him.
Yeah, nicely done there. Matthew Williams into the top 6. Fantastic performance. Really scintillating stuff. Not quite where he qualified up in 4th. But still, with that 20-place grid drop, you'll take a 6th-place finish.
You can't deny that is a hero's drive, and that now puts 6 different teams in the top 6 places. Jene Simoncic is on the final lap. Stefan Rualt, a great drive from him in 2nd place. He'll be gutted because he lost a good 20 seconds in this race with his earlier spins, and that means he could have been right on the rear wing of this man, Jene Simoncic. We never really got to find out who would have won in the duel between Simoncic and Rualt. Stefan will be disappointed that he threw away a chance to compete for the victory, but a 2nd place finish under the circumstances is incredible. It'll go 25 points to Simoncic, 20 to Rualt, 16 to Bock. So Bock will drop from 24 points ahead to 15 ahead of Simoncic, and he will drop to 20 ahead of Stefan Rualt. It doesn't sound like a big scalp, but in terms of the psychological battle, this has been an exceptional display from Jene Simoncic and Stefan Rualt.
Yeah, and Simoncic's psychological state must be at peak right now. 3 wins on the bounce, and with performances like this. This has been wondrous stuff from Simoncic. There's another car off there. I'm not going to make a guess at who that was. I can't see it clearly enough, but never mind that, because Simoncic is able to drive past.
I think that was Fidek. I think that was Fidek in the top 10, actually, because Gobbi's just got past him. So that's unfortunate for David Fidek to lose the top 10. But for the 3rd race in a row in GPVWC Super League, is the tide turning. He levels Yannick Bock on victories this year as Jene Simoncic wins the British Grand Prix in absolutely emphatic style. That is one of the most incredible drives in recent GPVWC Super League history. From P7 on the grid, Simoncic fights, wrestles, calculates, and gets the victory in magnificent and majestic fashion. Stefan Rualt in a brilliant 2nd place. Yannick Bock licking his wounds in 3rd.
And yeah, huge statement. As you already mentioned, huge statement performance from Jene Simoncic. It looks like Ragusa is going to be able to hold off Malinek there for 4th and 5th. And Williams will come home in 6th. And I see I'm seeing some support for a Williams driver of the day, Matthew Williams. It's got to be between him and Jene Simoncic, surely. What Simoncic did, though, in this race was insane.
I think if you're looking at the front runners, there's no doubt in my mind that Simoncic would be driver of the day. But in terms of the race we did not expect, as Williams spins across the line, I think he's allowed one mistake in this race. For me, I'm absolutely with you, Jacob. For me, the driver of the day, Matthew Williams, without a shadow of a doubt. He's actually 5th at the flag. I do believe. Yes, he is. He's 5th because Ragusa had an off.
What's happened to Ragusa here? Ragusa is dropped all the way down now to 9th.
Has Ragusa had a shunt? Well, that is very interesting. Unless Ragusa had a penalty that he did not take, and it's been added to his time. But Ragusa, for some reason, is coming through as 9th place. So that is a very interesting one. I don't know what the full story is with that one, but yeah, we'll have to unravel that one. But at the moment, it looks as though Williams has got 5th and not 9th. Sorry, not 6th. So Williams could have been top 5 after all. Yannick Bock straight to the pit box. He is not happy on this slowing down that well. Provisionally, at least, here's the result. Simičić first from Rualt second. Bock is third. Ragusa did come home in fourth. Okay, so it was a post-flag incident. It doesn't count. Maciej Mlanek in fifth place. Matthew Williams in sixth in front of Leon Bock, Wright Kilk, Jeff Fournier, and Fabrizio Gobbi. That's your top 10 after a crazy race day here at Silverstone. 11th position, a robbed 10th position run for David Feidek, I do believe, as he came home in 11th place in front of Colin Spork and Dan Stepkowski. Germano Zapala and Robin Panzar are the ones who get the final points. Thomas Vack and Flo Gaia managed to finish the race despite Gaia's big crash in the closing stages. The retirements, well, there were 11 of them. Giuseppe Lino out, Eros Masciuli out, Wopke Hoekstra out. Then we had obviously problems for Federica Russo and Mirko Lucchini. The green stripes couldn't get to the end, nor could Adonis' Sandeep Singh. Adriano Opporcini for Ghost Speed was out. Lauren Kiersmakers crashed into the wall. Michael Francesconi had troubles. So did Matthias Mus. And Tobias Olsen, an early victim. Flotsam and Jetsam all over the race circuit here at Silverstone. But what a result for Jene Simičić. 3 in a row. And now he is looking like a favourite for the championship, Jacob.
Absolutely, he is. And yeah, at this point, I'd struggle to bet on Yannick Bock. If I was a betting man, I'd struggle to bet on Yannick Bock against Jene Simičić because Simičić is coming with such incredible momentum as this season is going on. And Stefan Rualt is still right there as well. They went into this race, Rualt and Simičić on the same points, 81 apiece. Simičić has taken a few extra points than Rualt in this race, but it's only a few extra points. So we really are looking at potentially a three-way battle to the end of the season.
Wow, this is an absolutely astonishing race. We're going to have to get quite a few people into the interview rooms for this one. There are so many people to talk to. I wonder how many we'll get as well, because I'm not sure we're going to get a full contingent this time. But let us bring the race winner into the room. It's been an absolutely fantastic result for our race winner today for the third race in a row. Jene Simičić. Oh, I tell you what, mate, you absolutely had us riveted. You'll enjoy watching this one back. Race of the season, and what a drive from you. Does that one mean even more than the win did at the Red Bull Ring and at the Gilles Villeneuve?
Well, hard to say about what means more. I'm just ultra happy for the performance, even though the strategy was absolutely like nightmare stuff. Everything went wrong, but somehow still I emerged in the lead in the end. So, yeah, not sure what to say. Just really happy, and it was a really enjoyable race.
Well, the move that you managed to get on Yannick Bock, that overtaking move into Village, I mean, that is such a big game changer in terms of the championship dynamic, because you've been fighting with him and chasing him down. You've been able to take points out of him when the races went your way, but this was a straight fight between the two of you. How big a difference does this make to your mentality, knowing you can psych him out and you can get him?
Yeah, I mean, the target was to beat Yannick, of course. And I was slightly annoyed that the strategy turned out a bit wrong, as I was trying to stretch the interest to do one stop, but then it dried out, so I had to switch the strategies. And I was really surprised that I have caught up on him so early. And yeah, about the championship, let's see what happens. I don't know exactly what is the difference now, maybe 10-15 points. But I never expected the gap to be so close after the pretty poor start to the season. So looking forward to how the battle will develop.
Wow, it's been a fabulous race from my side. Jacob, do you have anything you want to put to Jene?
Yeah, I just want to quickly, I wonder, I don't know how much you can get into this or not, but thinking about the updates, of course, Burst Esports going into this race without an extra set of updates compared to the other teams, and yet you were still able to pull that performance. Was that something that you were worried about going into the race or anything like that? And does it make you even more optimistic for Germany, perhaps?
Both. Well, I am optimistic, but I know that in the dry I would probably be 3-4 seconds of the pace. With Robin, we tested today. We compared the pace against the Evo guys, and we were not really able to get anywhere close. So we did some rain dancing, and it worked. Of course, it's a huge help to have SimHub. I mean, the rain percentages, to have them on the SimHub dashboard. Sorry, I have to tease some people probably listening, but. Yeah, looking forward to the next races. There should be some really nice tracks, and let's see if if we can get back even stronger with preferable updates.
Absolutely amazing race today. One of the best I've ever seen in Super League. Great stuff, Yene, and a great victory. Well done.
Thank you so much.
Let's bring in Cameron Roger, because this is obviously a momentous moment, not just for Yene Simoncic, but for Cameron Roger as well. I mean, there are victories, there are tough races, and there are absolute stormers. What a place to do it as well, Cameron, on your home turf. You must be very happy.
Yeah, that wasn't stressful at all. Yeah, yeah, you know, me and Yene were just saying after the race, that was probably one of the worst strategic races. But it's always easy to say in hindsight, and it worked out. But yeah, I mean, just like Montreal release, it's really good when Yene can keep the tires going a bit longer, because it just gave the strategic options. Yeah, just kept them open, which is good. But I don't think we played the race very well. We were helped by Yannick making a bit of a mistake when we got onto the mediums. But then that, I mean, obviously that was good. Yannick started to pull away, and then obviously it was quite easy after that point. But yeah, it was quite yeah, quite a tricky race. It was changing all the time. But yeah, I mean, I saw some people after Montreal saying, you know, our wet races are a bit this, bit that, but they're at least they're something a bit different. And you know, whether it's correct to how it should be or not, it certainly adds an extra spice to the race.
Absolutely incredible stuff. Do you have anything that you wanted to approach Cameron with, Jacob?
Not especially. No, I think that's all covered as far as I'm concerned.
Amazing. Excellent racing and a fabulous performance today. 3 in a row. Let's see if he can make it 4 in Germany. Good stuff.
Cheers, boys.
Well, we have Stefan Rualt waiting in the green room, so let us bring in our man in second position. An absolutely terrific race today from Stefan Rualt. Stefan, I mean, a brilliant race. I guess you'll be feeling a little ambivalent coming into this one, because second place, fabulous opportunity, ahead of the championship leader as well. For those couple of moments earlier in the race, you could have been fighting for the win today. So how do you sum up an amazing drive to second place?
Yeah, thanks. Well, actually coming into the race, I was really feeling a little bit on the back foot, especially against my teammates. So when it rained, I have to be honest, I was kind of happy because that, you know, that levels the playing field a little bit more. And then the first couple of laps were good. We chose inters instead of the full wets, and I think that was the better choice. And I think our pace in those early laps showed it. But then I spun twice, and had to play catch up. But to be really honest, I think Yone was in a league of his own today. So even if I didn't have those spins, I don't think I could have challenged him. So in the end, just really happy with P2.
I mean, it's a brilliant performance. I mean, yes, I think everybody had mistakes today. Everybody had issues where it didn't quite go according to plan. If you take those couple of moments away, I mean, you outclassed several drivers in the field today, and you can ride the crest of confidence that, in essence, you guys actually had a pretty decent strategy nailed on.
Yeah, well, we're keeping a close look on the weather, but it's really hard to tell because it doesn't necessarily reflect, you know, the real life location. So in the end, we just chose to choose the tire that the conditions were right for. That was it. But we got lucky, I guess. Everyone around us did the same thing basically, and we were just one lap ahead each time, and it was good.
Excellent stuff, Stefan. Jacob, what do you want to hit the Dutch racer with?
Well, yeah, I mean, you mentioned the strategy calls, you being on the right tire at the right time. Obviously, that is not what Jone Simoncic went for, because you pitted. I was expecting to see Jone pitting onto Inters away from the medium tires, and he just stayed out there. Oh no, sorry, rather onto medium tires away from the Inters. I'm trying to remember now. It's been a lot of tire changes went on, but he stayed out there on an unsuitable set of tires for a very long time. Were you surprised by the fact that he was able to keep it going in those circumstances?
To be honest, I didn't know that he was on mediums. I thought he was still on the inters. My engineer told me at a later point, but he gained all the time on the inters the first stint. I think he was already like 20 seconds ahead without stopping. So that was amazing stuff by him, and that won him the race.
Excellent, absolutely amazing racing, and a wonderful display from you. Take the plaudits and take the points, because it was a great run. Well done.
Thank you, guys.
Well, we don't seem to have Yannick Bock around, unfortunately. I'm not entirely sure he is going to be available for an interview for third position. Two men, though, are waiting in the green room, and as we don't have time for one, we can have room for two instead. Let's bring the boys in from the Epic Racing team, Flo Geyer and David Farding. It's been a long time since we've spoken to them, actually, but on a day where we got to see a lot of action at the front, we also got to see a hell of a lot of action in the midfield. So let's bring in the boys. David, good to see you once again. Epic race out there, but so tough to know what was going on. And you were right in the middle of all of that. That must have been quite a hellraiser.
Entertaining, yes.
Always with the most biggest understatement of them all.
The qualifying was crazy. Like, it was all about that first lap when the rain was building. And I had a half spin going into turn 3, so it was always going to be a hard task. We decided to start from the pit lane. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, absolutely.
My mic's a bit fuzzy. Started from the pit lane, and I think I got 22nd on the first lap, and then was just picking off one by one. But I decided to change tyres too early and lost a pit stop when I could have been around the top 10. So I was a pit stop behind them, and then gaining that back slowly, and then something else happened. I can't remember what it was, but anyway, yeah, it was an eventful race. Was like sitting comfortably in the top 10, coming on to the last lap, and I was just looking at the map and the lap times on the display, and just dropped it on the curb and lost a place to Gobi, I think. And I thought it was one more lap to go, but Simoncic passed me for the lap, and I couldn't get him back. So yeah, but it was good fun. It was really good fun. I think times were competitive. When in clear air, I think I was up there with the rest, so there's a lot to build on.
Well, an absolutely fantastic run. And let's get a word from you as well, Flo. I mean, such a difficult race. I mean, we've spoken to the guy who came home first. It seems horrible that we're speaking to the guy who's come in last, but it really was such a difficult race out there. I mean, one of the toughest you guys have ever had to endure.
Well, you could possibly direct the movie from race winner to race spinner for me.
We haven't quite got the Drive to Survive gig yet. We'll work on it. We'll work on it.
Yeah, do that. I can play a good role in it.
Excellent.
Well, you really can compare me with Massa. In this case, like I don't know. As soon as I went on the throttle or the brakes, the car just went, and I had zero grip. I mean, it's the same for everybody else, but it felt terrible. And I'm not the best wet driver. I can admit that easily, but I also done pretty well in some other events, wet rain, so it can't really be that. And I was hoping to score at least the last point in the end, but nobody did me the favor and crashed, so had to deal with being last. So it's nothing new this season, to be honest.
Well, obviously we are at the halfway point in the season, so I guess a question to both of you to finish off. I mean, the Epic Racing team have obviously had a difficult start to the year. Is there a good opportunity now coming for you guys to turn it around? Do the progressions that you guys have made in the car development, are the next circuits going to give you guys a better chance to showcase what you can do?
I have no idea.
Well, that was easy. That was an easy question.
It's so weird, and like, I don't think it's been that bad of a start to the season. I mean, we had the podium. We both could have had front row in China if we put our laps up. The pace is there. It's just for some reason we're doing something wrong in quali. Race pace is always there, but yeah, we're just failing on that first hurdle. So we just got to work at that. We worked a lot for quali this race, but it rained, so we were actually doing the exact same lap time. So yeah, we're getting more consistent anyway. But France next. We'll see. I mean, it's a twisty track, a lot like China, so we'll see if we can get that setup back working on that.
Fair enough. Well, guys, look, it's been entertaining. Hopefully next time it'll be entertaining for the right reasons in 2 weeks when we go to Manicourt. Guys, thank you so much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yo, thanks.
Right, so...
And, sorry, can I just say thanks? Thanks to Lee for the amazing team boss he is, and the great livery we had. I think the car looked stunning today. I just want to say thank you for the guy that designed it. yeah, that was it.
Look after your team. That's what we like to hear. Thank you, guys. Thank you, David. Thank you to you as well, Flo. And we'll see you at Manicourt. Thanks. Good stuff.
Bye.
Well, I have to say, that was one of the more interesting and exciting of races, and right before the halfway point in the season as well. That gives us such an amazing challenge in front of us. It's now 3 wins for Bock, 3 wins for Simoncic. We have got such an exciting second half of the year to come. Hockenheim and Manicourt obviously coming up soon as well, so there are some very, very exciting races ahead for us, and yeah. This could not be a better title fight now, because psychologically, Yannick Bock has taken a major scalp. It's up to him to fight back in Germany.
Yeah, absolutely. He needs to allay the momentum, the head of steam that Simoncic is building up right here. Because Bock had that earlier on in the season. It was briefly interrupted by Rob, and now it's all been Simoncic. Canada and Great Britain, both of those races were mixed conditions, and Jone seems to do very, very well in these mixed conditions. So for Yannick, potentially what you're going to be hoping for is a drier couple of races in Hockenheim and in Manicourt. And I got to say, I hope the Epic Racing Team guys don't practice their setups for France too much, given that it is Germany next.
Well, Jacob, it's been wonderful to have your company, and we get to do it all again in 2 weeks' time. I can't wait.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very mumuch looking forward to seeing what the next round will bring.
Fantastic. So, the 3 top men in the championship have now all taken at least 1 win. Yannick Bock, Jone Simoncic and Stefan Rualt. But of course now, for Yannick Bock and Jone Simoncic, they are 3 wins apiece. And it can't get much more exciting than it got at Silverstone. What will Hockenheim bring? Who is going to get the best run of the draw? And will the rivalry allow a different driver a crack at the whip? You'll have to wait for 2 weeks to find out as we go to Hockenheim for round 9 of the 2021 GPVWC Super League Championship. Hope you've enjoyed it. From myself, from Jacob Hancox and from Argo on the broadcast suite, it's been a brilliant night of racing, and we will see you in 2 weeks when Super League returns.